This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites. This is episode 201. No, yes, 201.
202.
202, that's right. That's right, because something happened to 200.
Where's the
My
zap
numbering
button?
is off.
Where's the zap button?
Get out of there. 202, we're at episode 202.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis.
I'm Marcus.
And I am Cajun.
All right, gentlemen, here we are. The five of us together once again. And it is Code of Honor.
Hooray!
Code of Honor.
Hooray!
Yay.
Hail to the Empire.
Hail to
Hail
the
to the
Empire.
Hail to the Empire.
So,
Not going away anytime soon.
no, I don't think so. Code of Honor today is kind of a freewheeling. We don't really have a theme, although I threatened to impose one at the last second and to
Made us all scramble for a moment.
There was a bit of rebellion to that, so
yes.
Be careful, but people can be.
But I can still apply
phasered
the
around.
agonizer at will. So
God.
those usurpers left behind a few toys for me to play with, being the running of the security board here.
those doggone serpents and beavers people.
That's right.
We're
tell
so
ya.
lucky to have closed that portal from the other dimension.
At least for now.
Yes, who knows when they might break through once again.
You'll have to keep a good eye on the negative zone at your place, Francis.
Absolutely.
They might find a way to connect the two.
All right, we'll
Yes.
be watching.
Yes, God knows a nihilist might just open up the portal just to wreak some havoc.
Well, I think I've got the shields up pretty well, but you never know.
You never know. All right, gentlemen. So, Code of Honor, and
We're here all week, ladies and gentlemen. Tip your waiters and
tip your
waitresses.
waiters and waitresses, yeah.
Can we mush together more cultural references?
Oh, absolutely.
yes.
I think.
I mean, people are like.
Obscure cultural
I mean, none of that shit makes sense. What are they doing?
Our depravity knows no bounds.
Yes, quite true. All right, so Code of Honor. As you know, listeners, this is not just one of our favorite episodes. This is one of the most popular episodes that we do.
For downloads, yes.
For downloads,
Absolutely,
yes.
everybody loves them.
Yes.
It is
Being the most popular podcast in the world that we are.
yes.
Absolutely, that's correct.
We are,
True
we are-
harmony.
we are
Yes.
taking over the world slowly. We're
Very
in no
slowly,
rush.
but
Yeah.
it's going to
Within
happen.
the limitations of our own minds.
Still
Ouch,
limitations
it hurts
we
a little,
have.
doesn't it?
Well, still limitations we truly have.
Yeah,
So,
true.
uh,
God knows our egos are not limited.
No,
No. That's why I said within our own minds.
Yes.
That adventurous American spirit of manifest destiny means
That's right.
Mhm.
the podcast has to take over the world eventually.
Of
Yes,
course.
podcast destiny.
Yes.
There you go.
That and unique facial hair.
Yes,
Except for one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Call me out on it again like that. I like my baby smooth face very much. So, thank you very much.
Well, when you did grow a beard those many years ago, you looked good in it.
It worked. Yeah, that's right. It was gray and
I
long
think
ago.
though, the problem for Francis was that he had more hair on his chin than on top of his head, so the chin had to be shaved.
The
That's
balance
something
was
like that.
off.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
balance.
Mhm.
That's right.
I think Francis would look terrific in more of the Cajun mode with the beard and the shaved head.
Really?
I think it
Well,
would
I
be
mean,
I think it would be a powerful look for you.
really.
Man, you're
Because again,
stepping
you-
on my vibe over there.
So I
I
don't
know,
want
but
to
he
take
has
that over.
such a street preacher vibe
Oh,
already.
so you want me to go all Obadiah Stane on you? From all
Oh yeah.
Oh.
You stained your what?
that. You remember? No.
Obadiah, that's his new
Obadiah
name.
Stane. That's right.
Francis' new name, Obadiah.
Obi.
Yeah, Obi.
I love it.
Yes.
Hey,
It's,
Doesn't Obi
Jeff-
mean grandmother in Hawaiian or something?
It might.
I don't know. Yeah. But, hey, you can't beat
Granny.
Jeff Bridges. Come on.
All right. So, Code of Honor is where we take one particular saying or quote from each one of us, and we philosophize about it, and we talk about it, and pound it to death. And then when we get to Robert the Hammer here, it's my job to tie it all together with something I pull out of my ass.
And he has success. He's what 198 to 1 to none. I mean, you've
Bad.
Well, I think I've had a
1,000.
couple of stinkers, but out of the,
Well,
the many we've done,
I mean,
I
a
think I've
couple
done
of
pretty well.
singles amongst many triples and homers.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I generally can tie stuff together.
A
and-
better batting average than the Detroit line.
So you say he's playing all the bases?
I got
You're
him.
just
I got
you
him.
know,
The guy I think I've
well,
got him
You're
over
just
here.
into this, man. You're this Detroit bashing.
But, you
Wow,
know,
where did
well,
this come from?
No, he doesn't even get it.
Yeah.
Well,
I got
I
it.
could be like the Great Pistons and pull a hat trick out of my ass.
There you go.
Or an asterisk out of your hat? No, sorry.
So
Piston out of where?
so now for all of these sport heads whose heads have now exploded multiple times, so mixed our metaphors.
We're good at that though. But go ahead. Yeah, we're quoting.
Anyways, so as captain,
Yes.
I get to choose who goes first.
Captain's
you do.
prerogative.
Yes.
So Imperator.
Oh, it's going to be me.
Oh
yes.
my.
Yes.
Oh, I'll get a good
Well,
one.
you know, you guys are new to the show, and the guys who go early tend to get the most time.
Give some spotlight.
Yeah. So
stop
if we let
looking at
Francis
me.
go first,
Stop
we'll
looking
be here
at
all
me.
day.
There is some truth to that, I do believe.
Well,
Well, I've known Francis longer than you.
no,
yes, you have.
This
true.
one is going to apply to a number of different things over the past few years that have been coming up. Now you have to guess who this quote's from.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Make us
Okay.
work for it.
The people who cast the votes don't decide in an election. The people who count the votes do.
That's a Mark Twain, isn't it?
No,
Is that another Joseph Stalin again?
Nixon.
it is indeed Stalin.
Is it really? Man,
Yes.
talk about wow. That's something. Well, and,
Talk about the reality of it.
well, yeah, he's right. Yeah,
It is.
that's correct.
And we've had a lot of that come up, especially when they don't count the votes, like in the Democratic primaries this last time when they dumped Bernie Sanders out onto the side of the road.
Well, that's correct. I mean, that was and it was all claimed as being well. We're it's our primaries. We can do what we want to.
Exactly, which they did.
They definitely
They
did.
definitely did, as they did the election before that with Hillary Clinton, when they also dumped Bernie Sanders off the side of the road.
It's interesting that you bring this up because in our in the millennial lifetime, questions about election have become rather the norm since 2000.
Seems like it.
Millennial lifetime. By that you mean since the turn of the millennium,
I did. That's
not
correct.
the generational.
That is exactly. I thank you for correct. I was trying to lay that out and
They're
slightly
rather new to this voting.
slightly
thing.
slipped and fell into the wet concrete on that one.
Well, Imperator, what would you know of voting? You rule by fiat.
This is true, but it's one of those things of when you. I get away with a lot.
Well, as
Oh no,
Comet
we,
has said,
we talk a long time on that one.
as Comet has said, let the people have their illusions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's
It's a very
As a-
cynical look at things.
no. As a former hacker, I have paid a lot of attention to the idea of the security of voting per se,
Yeah.
and the lack therein that exists today, especially with our electronic voting systems.
There has been much.
Supposedly, they are quite secure.
Supposedly, yes. The only thing I trust is an actual physical ballot.
Well, even that can be suspect, as we
and-
remember from the hanging Chads in 2000.
Well, it's not necessarily suspect, but questioned.
Yes, that's a better word. Absolutely.
And
Well,
you know,
that relies upon the skill or stupidity, depending on your choice
of the counters.
of
Well,
the people who
and-
are casting the vote.
And the
Well,
balloting,
there's those two.
how you design a
How
ballot.
you design a ballot. All
I mean,
of this is important.
Kentucky is not necessarily the most technologically savvy place, but
We have good ballots.
We have good ballots, and we have generally thought of as elections that are fair and correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't know about correct all the
I
time.
do like the approach that's been taken in a number of countries lately. Of when you vote, they dip your finger in a
Yes.
ink
In ink.
that
The Middle
does
East.
not.
Yeah.
The Middle East is
Come
famous for this.
Yes,
The purple
exactly.
fingers.
The purple
Really?
fingers, and I think that's a wonderful idea.
Is that from eating too many grapes?
One vote,
Yes.
one
Yes,
person,
exactly.
one vote.
Yep.
Yes,
and it ensures it.
I think I think even if we were to continue using the electronic ballots like we do here, the
Yes.
scan cards, basically,
Uh-huh.
scantrons, I think you should still dip your finger
I
in the
think
ink.
so too. Make them make us proud.
Stickers don't mean
The
crap.
stickers don't. Yeah.
Is that left hand or right hand? Considering it's the Middle East,
Don't know.
I don't remember.
I think it makes a difference
I'm sure it does.
Possibly.
on which
yeah.
hand you eat with or shake hands with in the Middle East.
There's a lot to be said for going low tech
Yes.
Yes.
in
there is.
elections.
There
You're
is.
right. You're exactly right,
I-
and that's
I mean, as much as we enjoy our tech and would love to be able to vote by phone and blah blah blah, there's a lot to be said for the concreteness of low tech voting.
Well, and not only the concreteness, but the
trust in it.
well, yes, but I'm not a super huge fan of making things the exercising of your responsibilities so easy that you don't even have to get off your couch. I think there's great merit in making you work to exercise your franchise,
but not onerously.
but not onerous.
Yeah, not onerous.
It
You
needs
can't-
to be
you can't put up
universal
barriers.
availability.
Something that
But-
requires effort has more value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, we have mail-in balloting started for those who
Yes.
could not leave or who were going to be out of state,
Mhm.
out of the country because they were in the
Yeah.
military, whatever.
There are exceptions.
Yeah, there are exceptions. And no, we should never disenfranchise those people, especially those serving in the military,
Exactly.
which has happened in a
Yes,
number of
it has.
elections where they don't get ballots counted because they either the federal government or whoever does not put a premium on actually getting the
Mhm.
ballots home.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a problem with that.
And how about the idea of making it a national holiday?
Yes, a national holiday I think would be a incredibly smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to be a Tuesday? Really, maybe it should be a Saturday.
But why does it have to end at 6?
And why does it have to end at 6?
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, and of course, some states don't.
right. They end
Yeah.
up.
And I think
Ultimately,
that's
that is a
smart.
state requirement on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's smart.
Well,
Why
and-
not go to 9 o'clock at night? I mean, yes, we have to wait longer for results, but if
But
we
who
give-
cares?
Yeah,
we
exactly.
give people.
They used to wait months to find out. who
Exactly.
won.
The
Exactly.
news cycle should not be the dominant.
How many
force here.
elections happen where there's not an issue that does hold up some of the votes?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, since 2000, that seems to have become the norm. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about log lines and all that, well, then just expand the hours.
Yes.
There's no reason to end at 6. It's
That or
silly.
open more polling places.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't even care so much if you have 2 days of voting. 2 months of voting, I'm totally against.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that can be shady.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be very shady. I am also against any and all counting of the votes before the polls close. That's one of the things
Yeah.
I have never liked. If we could, I would outlaw the
Exit polling.
exit polling.
Yeah.
Because I think that influences things. Florida in 2000 is a prime example of this. The state is in 2 different time zones,
Mhm.
and the mass media declared the winner for the state before the polls closed in the eastern or the western half
Yes.
of the state. And the story goes that suppressed the vote in that part of the state that last hour or two.
People went home. They
Well,
were
people
standing
went
in
home.
I
line.
mean,
And that was a state that or part of the state that voted predominantly a particular way.
well, I mean,
It would have made the difference
Well,
in making that a no brainer as to who won.
Well, I mean, the press jumping the gun on elections goes. I mean, what was it, Dewey? Was it
Yeah,
Dewey?
I mean,
Truman?
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah. And because the famous headline is Truman the next day holding up Dewey wins.
Dewey wins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kowtowing our rights and responsibilities for the convenience of the press
Yes.
is
Yes. There's a lot
And
of
the
truth to
public's
that.
demand for information.
This
That-
is true.
It is that
Yes,
those are related.
But the press has created that demand.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yes,
That's right. I don't
yes.
want to.
I mean, I think.
I mean,
you're
the
right.
sensationalism of it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we do want to know as soon as possible because
Yeah.
we're invested. If you voted, you're invested.
yeah, we're
Mhm.
entitled to know as soon as it's accurate.
Yes.
Yes.
We're entitled to know, but before it's accurate, we're
Mhm.
not.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're not.
And if if you have, I wouldn't even be opposed to counting it twice before you release results.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if it were just put out as, "Hey, we're not going to know until X,"
It's done.
We could live with that.
It's done when it's done.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with this, though, is that we sit here and we talk about this as if it's an obvious panacea, but the longer it takes, that you're going to have both sides complain that it just gives more time for the other side to do shenanigans.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's probably going to be with us for the foreseeable future. People are going to call shenanigans no matter what, whether the count is too quick or the count is too slow.
Well, I mean, the finger dipping takes care of the dead people voting because they still only get to vote once.
Yes.
So I think that's a simple solution to.
Yeah, and if we start digging up graves and everybody's fingers are purple, we know
what's going on.
We know what's going on. Yeah,
I love that.
It'll be like Weekend at Bernie's voting.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, it's there's a lot of things that because we've allowed technology to have such a free hand in things that we've overcomplicated what should have been a simple process.
Well, I'm sure we'll let AI take over the voting counts next.
Sometimes I wonder, can it do any worse?
I'm not ready to give in to our Cylon overlords just yet.
No,
I'm not either. I'm just saying that we've screwed it up enough that it's hard to imagine them picking worse leaders.
it is. That's a given.
Yeah.
Well, that does go back to the old adage: garbage in, garbage out.
Yes. Anybody who wants to be president is probably the last person that should be president.
Exactly.
Or senator or representative or governor or whatever.
And then you've got we have these ancient people that are in office that are completely inept that people keep reelecting.
Well, and they don't have to be ancient.
Well, this is true. To be incompetent, they don't have to be ancient.
I mean, you feel bad for them because somebody's pushing them.
Well,
somebody's behind that.
Yeah,
and I want to be a senator's wife or whatever.
The manipulation of the press in the pre-election cycles and what have you is extremely apparently easy.
Oh yeah.
A perfect example is on the Republican side, Santos.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that man would have gotten elected if anybody would have checked his background. Because all of it was bullshit.
All right, he's the guy, that faked everything. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Santos, yeah. He's
Santos.
the one. He's the Republican that's everything.
Is that a code name for? Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that theoretically.
If anybody would have vetted him.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened in a
Yeah.
modern society. Yeah.
But it did, obviously.
That's right.
That's an example of laziness.
Happens a lot.
I'm sure it does. What happens a lot is the talking heads on both sides, they presume somebody's actually intelligent and competent when they're, after you see them open their mouths, you realize they totally are not. And that happens on both sides.
Yeah, well, it's a hard test in a House race because the pool is kind of shallow.
Yes.
A House race, and it's meant to be that. It's meant to let a small community pick someone, and if they're a loon, then hopefully that's diluted by the idea of there being 435 of them.
Right.
I mean, if
what that really means, though, is there's 435 loons.
Yeah,
that's where it ends. Yeah,
which sadly is not entirely inaccurate.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's 435 very shallow humans generally.
Right. Well,
we tend to be fishing from the shallow end of the gene pool, I think, for politicians.
Well, again, anybody who has any brains should run away from politics.
This is true.
Because of the absolute anal exam that you have to undergo for most people.
But they're not.
Well, I would say he's the exception.
He is the
Santos
possibly?
is the exception.
Well, it speaks to the fact that even though you have to go through that anal exam, the power that these people wield is significant.
Yes.
Yes,
It is highly significant.
The opportunity to plunder.
Yes, to line their pockets.
It's so significant.
Well,
it's alluring.
Yes. I mean, I hate to be so cynical about our political system, but I mean, let's face it. When you have people who make less than $200,000 a year become multimillionaires
In a couple
after,
of years.
in a few years in Congress. There's something fishy.
Yeah, I mean, when you get where people are worth 60 and 70 million on a salary of 200,000,
Mm-hmm.
way.
I mean, it's like, what were they talking to Hillary for cattle futures or tips or what?
Oh, there's a flashback for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So,
All right,
Reach
well,
back,
Cap-
not reach around.
So, yes, reach back, not reach around. So, gentlemen, have we sufficiently?
I think
I
we-
pummeled
believe
that?
so.
I think we've done good with
This
that.
one
We've
good.
done a good job.
So, do I have a volunteer or shall I pick?
I'll
You
go
pick.
next. You started
right.
out with the newest ones anyway.
All right, Cajun, what do you have to say here?
Let's see, where was it? Ah, here's a good one. There is no client as scary as an innocent man. Said by a lawyer.
Well,
I'm
obviously,
sure we know what lawyer we might guess that came from and what author wrote that.
Is that
Francis?
Is that Mickey Holler?
Mickey Holler.
From
written
Michael
by
Connelly.
Michael
Michael
Connelly.
Connelly,
Yeah,
oh.
that's
Lincoln
right,
Lawyer.
The Lincoln
Mhm.
Lawyer, absolutely, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, a great TV series, by the way, on Netflix. Yeah, second season's out.
So repeat that again.
There
There's
is no client as scary as an innocent man.
All right, so why is that
Man.
interesting to you? Let's talk about that. Because I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that comes to
a
mind.
lot of
there.
layers? Yeah.
Well, for one thing, who has everything to lose but the innocent man? Most men who come to a defense lawyer are guilty in one form or fashion. But how many are truly innocent?
Oh, I see what you're
That's what he's saying. You can look at it from both sides,
Because
that of the client or that of the person defending him.
The concept
Yes.
of plea bargaining becomes essentially irrelevant when the person is an innocent person.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lawyer, it's the hardest job they have.
Yeah.
That's why
it's
it's scary.
very
Mhm.
frightening. It's
Because-
it's
Are they
there's
gonna
the
let down-
responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Right.
responsibility of having an innocent man's
Mhm.
life in your hand.
That's right, because essentially the
trust.
only way he survives is not by the virtue of his innocence, but by the virtue of your abilities as a
Yeah.
lawyer.
yeah.
But now let's take this to another level. What man or person is truly all innocent?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one. I mean, that's a
You could
Exactly.
be very innocent of what you're accused of.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
gonna say that's what we're talking about here.
You may be innocent of what you may be accused of, but you're definitely going to be guilty of something.
well, and some will say that.
Did you look up little Susie Scott in third grade there or what?
Right. Well, not Susie's, but but that's a great point though, because some would say, well, we may not have convicted him for what he did, but we know he did something. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as we get him, that's all that matters.
And there's a lot of that goes
But
on.
is
in
it
Yes,
relative
there
to
is.
what's happening at the moment, though? There's
Mhm.
another side to it. If you
Yep.
Well, it depends on
convict
your
him
belief in
something and it has nothing to do with what he's being convicted of, is that justice?
Well, I'm glad you used that word because
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're talking about here is when we're talking about justice, it's meant to be limited to the accusation here. But in the criminal justice system, that's not always the way this goes.
Well, a perfect example. There was a gentleman over in Indiana who just pled guilty on 2 counts of something along the lines of speaking with a minor for ill intent kind of thing. When in fact, they were speaking to a detective who was not a minor,
but they thought.
but they thought.
Yes.
So I mean, that's one of those things of what the person pled guilty to, what they were charged with. If that had actually happened, yes. And is this person a despicable human being? Yes. The problem is, did you catch them?
It didn't actually do anything.
It's an illusion as to what they're being prosecuted for.
Yes,
Well,
because as
entrapment.
you know, every 13-year-old girl on the internet is an
Yes,
FBI agent.
Exactly.
right.
Well, I mean,
Every hitman on Craigslist is a cop.
yeah. But I mean, you've also got
Well, they could also be a hitman on Craigslist and a cop. but-
another thing. Another thing that you can look at is in Washington State, they have a nice little island called McNeil Island,
Mm-hmm.
which used to be a prison.
yes.
But now it's for involuntary commitment of those that we think are going to do something.
That
Oh, the thought
violates-
police has arrived,
I
huh?
was going to say that violates the civil rights, though. How do you do that?
How do they do? They've been doing it for years.
Well, if
They-
they're committed, then
There's
if
a
they
process.
If they go the crazy route,
Yes.
then yes, you can.
But all of them are violent sexual offenders.
Wow.
And the
Well,
terms have been served.
Well, that's a great point. If you want to talk about such things, almost no one would complain about the existence
Exactly.
of the sex offenders registry.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because it
Um,
protects society. It's the
Well,
intention.
does it?
Well, that's the
Or is it
intention.
an invasion
Or-
of privacy?
Or
And that
how-
Because after
or
you've
how
served
fair
your
is it?
sentence,
Yeah.
That is, we have nailed the tension
You
exactly.
paid
Yes.
your debt to society if you served out your sentences. So why
Yeah.
you still brand it publicly?
Mhm.
Well, and a lot of this goes back to
the Scarlet Letter.
that's a little of it in our DNA, I suppose, in our societal DNA. But a lot of this goes back to the fact that modern psychology is now discovering that, and this came out in the Catholic sex abuse
Yes.
issue in 2002, that what we used to think was rehabilitatable
Mm-hmm.
truly isn't.
Okay.
And as society has done that, we have essentially given the guns over to the law to say, put these people away. Despite, I mean, it's almost like Lincoln and
But-
his alleviating
So
But
habeas
change
corpus.
the law.
they're making medical diagnoses now on sociopaths.
Oh, that's correct. That's
Yeah.
right.
yes.
but then,
But you're right, because constitutionally, there are
Constitutionally,
issues with
yes.
that. There
I
are
agree.
absolute issues, but it goes back to that understanding of
But
all
are
the
they-
law is an extension of the will of the people.
But you see, in the case of
but not just
the guy who just pled guilty to communications with a minor,
Yeah.
in reality, he was innocent of the crime that he was accused of.
Right. Well, it goes back to
Prima
intent,
facie,
though.
absolutely.
But it goes
But-
back to intent.
It does.
Because speaking theologically, intent is
Is
a
sin
huge
itself.
portion. No, intent is a huge portion of what makes up a sin.
Oh, okay.
It's
Correct.
not. It is not the lone portion,
is
but
not.
it is a.
Right.
Yes.
But in this
So-
case, the law has. They are deciding that
But-
that's all that's necessary.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the
He
intent.
acted on the intention.
right, because he thought it was a minor,
Yes.
and he had evil.
I agree,
purposes.
but it wasn't.
No, I'm just saying.
I know.
This is
Yeah, I know.
Evil intent, as
Right.
Wilson
Now-
Fisk would say.
because I mean, how many? Now, granted, probably fewer than make the claim, but how many people have flirted with people that supposedly were over 18 on the internet? Comes to find out that they are truly minors.
Well, that's how
And,
I
you
ended
know-
up with my wife.
But
Well, that's a
there's no
different thing.
intent.
Well, not on
There's
the
no
internet.
intent.
though.
There's no intent, but that doesn't make the act any less
Yes.
illegal.
Yeah.
If you don't have the intent, but you do the act, you're still guilty of it.
But that, well,
Are you?
we're forgetting
Are you?
something to go back.
Is ignorance an excuse?
Yeah.
The law would say no, but
Yeah.
we need to go back to
Morally,
the source of what you're talking about
Yeah.
here. And I think that's what the answer to this is.
Intent is a key component of the judicial system.
Well,
Yes.
it
Yes,
is.
it is.
However,
You have to be able to prove
in
intent.
all these cases that we're talking about here, theoretical or not, every single person has the opportunity for their day in court. That's what Mickey
Yes.
Holler's
That-
talking
yes,
about here.
Yes.
Yes.
That's where we're going. They have the opportunity for their day in court. This gentleman here chose not to exercise it
He did.
for whatever reasons that
well,
we
his
brought-
day in court ended up with a plea deal.
Well, that's
Yes.
correct. He decided to do
Yeah.
that. So there's mitigating He would not have done that if there was a snowball's chance in hell of him getting
If
off.
he thought, but
If he-
but
And that's a very
these
good question.
individuals are so vilified,
That's
and
correct.
rightfully so.
Right.
I'm not saying that they should.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, we
It's
don't
just-
want to excuse.
No.
It's
No,
the
no.
example that proves the rule.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
I
all
find
a slippery slope.
Yeah, where is that
And-
dividing
and-
line between
yeah.
civil rights and innocent until proven guilty
And then you've
And
got-
protecting society.
and protecting
Yeah.
society? That's kind of that tension that
And
we're working
the
around.
defense for that, the individuals that are supposed to be enforcing that, are the lawyers. And then look at what they're facing.
Well, that's what Mickey Holler's talking about here.
Exactly.
It's so hard. If you to the burden of proof should be on the prosecution, right? That's the way our,
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
the way our system is set up.
Guilty, innocent, proven guilty.
Yeah.
That's the
But-
law here. But Mickey's kind of saying maybe that's not the case.
Yeah.
Or Connolly, of course, through Mickey's mouth.
Well, I mean, and you also have to look at. Let's go to let's say we take somebody like a Hitler. Let's say you're trying to prosecute him for a crime that he did not commit. How do you defend someone like a Hitler?
Well, that is Nuremberg is the perfect example of all this because
Yes.
that's where we literally
Well,
provided that.
Well,
Yeah.
presumably, though, everybody we convicted at Nuremberg did what we convicted them of.
Yes.
His
What
point
I'm
was,
saying is, convict somebody for something, or you're trying to convict somebody for something that they're innocent of, even though they're
guilty of
absolutely,
monstrous other things.
even though they're an absolutely despicable
Yeah.
example
Well,
of
I
a
mean,
human being.
Usually, it's the other way around. You're trying to catch somebody on a lesser charge because you can prove it, knowing that they're putting them
Very-
away because of
Yes.
their
That's your normal approach is
Yeah.
to find,
something.
even
can
if you have to
convict them of.
kind of inflate something.
Yes.
Okay, well, I read into this a little bit further, and I listened to some of Michael Connolly talking about this aspect.
Oh.
And literally, he's talking about the burden of
Yes.
possible guilt on the lawyer trying to defend an
Yeah.
innocent man. If he's actually innocent, what is the price to the lawyer's soul if he fails that innocent
Right.
man and he goes to jail for 20, 30, 40 years
Exactly.
life?
Especially
Or even
if
death
the
row.
public perception is the person isn't innocent.
Yes.
Right, if he
Because
isn't
that-
innocent
that-
totally,
that-
or if
or
he
he's
is a
convicted.
criminal in some aspects and he gets charged and
Right.
set up for something,
Well, he's
Right.
been
then he doesn't
convicted in
feel
the
as bad.
press.
Yeah, I mean we always make fun of attorneys, you know.
But if he's truly innocent of
Exactly.
the crime
The
and
responsibility.
and he fails him,
yeah, we always talk about the jokes about attorneys. What do you call 600 attorneys at the bottom of the ocean?
A good start.
Yeah.
But they'll do something most of us don't have the courage to do.
Yes.
Is associate themselves with someone unsavory.
Yes.
That's right. Who is oftentimes guilty, and they form a very important function in our society. They make sure everybody gets a fair trial.
Right.
In
I
theory,
mean, Thomas
yes.
More was made the best point about that, about giving the devil his due, so that when
right.
it's your turn,
Yeah.
you've not laid
Yes.
waste to the process that would save yourself.
You cannot stand upright on the winds that would blow, as he would say.
Yes.
and the majority of lawyers start out have covered both sides. They start out on the prosecutor side as baby lawyers, learning the trade when they get out of school, and then they move over to the criminal side or real estate or wherever else where the big money is after they get established for a few years. Granted, there are some that stay on the prosecutorial side out of about thoughts of duty or whatever thoughts they might have towards that, but
Or waiting to get appointed to a federal judgeship.
yeah.
Right. Right. Well, that's not a bad way to do it. Is go through,
Yeah,
be a
there-
prosecutor,
yeah.
become an assistant DA, whatever. And
Well, yeah, I mean, U.S.
There is a
attorneys,
cursus honorum to the process.
U.S. attorneys get made into judges. Private attorneys get made into judges. I
And
mean,
the other thing is there any, actual monetary or what have you responsibility for lawyers that fail in their duties drastically?
Well, there could be. There
can
could
be.
They could
Yeah,
face
stuff
on
disbar-
the
they
ball.
could
They
face,
Lord,
face disbarment, but
well,
judges.
or even prosecution.
that's not
depending
failing.
on-
That's
that's
that's incompetence.
Yeah.
Well, that's even
failing won't get you disbarred. It'll get
Yeah.
you
No.
unemployed.
well,
Yeah.
it will. But usually, what disbarment is an ethics violation or things like that. It's a malfeasance. It's a
Right.
malpractice.
Yeah.
That's entirely different than
Than
not getting
simply-
your client off.
That's
And that can
Yeah.
also be fined too. It doesn't have to be total disbarment or anything.
okay.
and
or
usually
you
that,
can just become president.
Yeah.
Captain,
Yes.
you want to go ahead with another one?
Well, yes. If we have sufficiently pummeled that expired equine,
remember we
can
got
move on
5 of us to do.
I think
It's-
we have, and it was an awesome quote from Cajun.
Yes, that was very
Mhm,
good.
that was
That's
good.
Love
It's
Mickey
a
Hallmark.
multi-layer.
well,
Yes.
the best ones are. The best ones
Yes,
are.
So
So I
that's
guess we're going to
terrific.
go around the circle
Totally.
here. So Franny, what?
A
what-
circle what?
No, we're not
No,
doing that.
no.
New subject, totally new subject. We'll say here. Brief. I like them brief like this, and I don't
no,
know
you
how.
don't.
Yes, I do.
Your setup takes longer. than
Historically, you
Yeah.
have loved the paragraph long ones.
No, I just expostulate for a long time, but the quotes themselves usually aren't very long.
That's true. It's the lead up to the quote that takes so long.
All right, lay it on us.
Lay it upon me. All right. Here's the quotation. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
know this one. Thomas Edison.
That's
Yeah.
an Edison, yeah, okay.
Which is ironic considering that he stole most of his ideas.
I was wondering if that was going to come up. Yes, that is the accusation.
From Tesla?
From Tesla, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Better?
Yeah, you're just getting a little bit of
It's getting a little bit
Blowback.
over.
yeah, just a
Little
little
hot.
distortion there. So yeah, that's an excellent one. That's in many ways that kind of is a callback to the last episode about manifest destiny. Those who stayed in the East stayed because they were comfortable there.
Yeah, those who didn't cross the mountains, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hard work is the key to opportunity, is what he's saying here. In fact, it's a necessary component in that. And I think it was Edison that said, invention is what
99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
That's right. Yeah, he is certainly a very good advocate for a high work ethic. One might say an American work ethic.
Well,
might
yes.
we say?
I agree.
Well,
I
actually,
agree.
he was Mexican.
Oh, Thomas Alva. He was.
Really?
Yes, Alva was adopted. He was adopted into the Edison family. He was actually Mexican.
All right. So now we're gonna have to
Now
look
you're
this
gonna
up.
have to
confirm
look this
it. My
up. All
God,
right.
he's
Well,
turned
Fact
into
check.
my-
Fact
he's-
check.
He's
Right.
turned into my wife.
Fact check.
She's a smart woman. We all know this. That's
Yeah.
right.
I'm not saying that I should be
Well,
questioned.
it doesn't invalidate the issue, though, that hard work.
Clean up on aisle two. Clean up on aisle two.
As a general policy, questioning Marcus is
It's a pretty good
a
idea.
wise thing. Yes,
Well,
because I mean he'll tell you lots of things.
I can come up with a lot of
I mean,
of
he-
bullshit.
Yes, I can. Indeed.
Bovine
I can
excrement.
sell some stuff.
He told two
He
girls
does not
had a
come with
money
just
back.
the shovel. He comes with the scoop shovel.
That's true.
I was going to say the backhoe.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, technically,
Yes,
yes,
I do
he
have
He
did.
one.
does. He
Yes.
does.
Come on, let's work these
Yes.
things
Come on.
together.
Go ahead
What are
and
you saying
discuss
about
while I
me
look this
then?
up.
I've got one too.
That's true. Absolutely. That's correct.
Well,
We're not discussing who has the bigger backhoe here. That's
Yes,
not the
but I-
discussion.
Oh, that's no doubt about that.
but I am pretty sure that you have also been known to shovel a little bit of excrement yourself
Oh,
of the
yes.
bovine.
A
Just
whole
a little
lot.
bit. Just a little bit, Bocephus.
Yes.
That's right.
I
Nevertheless,
love the Bocephus vibe.
that's right.
Uh,
So yes, I get it. Edison is so incredible on a lot of levels,
Oh, yeah.
not
He
just
is.
the work,
So,
but what he would say about his work, and that is a prime example that is so insightful
Yeah.
that people miss. Of
Mhm.
and PGO Works said something. Opportunity not only knocks, it'll jiggle the knob and try the windows.
Yeah.
Opportunity is there
Oh, yeah.
in this nation.
but
It's out there. Grab it. Do it.
Work at it. Which is
but
what,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to take advantage of your opportunity, you better get those damned overalls on.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
and be
yeah.
willing to dig the ditch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta
and
be-
yeah,
you gotta
it's
be
you
prepared
are
to get
willing
dirty.
to fire up the backhoe.
But I mean,
Just
Edison.
don't do it.
So,
Edison was a Barnum of his own age.
oh, I would,
in many
to a
ways,
degree.
yes.
very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
Thomas Alva Edison was born in Milan, Ohio in 1847, moved to Michigan,
Yeah.
wisely. And according to the same accepted historical sources, Edison's father, Samuel Edison, was from Canada, born in Nova
Yes.
Scotia, and his mother, Nancy Elliott, hailed from rural New York State.
But he was adopted
No,
into the Edison family.
that is not what it
Thought he
is
was.
according.
Push the button. Push the button.
Push the button.
Yes, so
Push the button.
I'll have to go with it too. Ironic, considering he electrocuted an elephant. Uh,
That's a very
I was gonna
Very
say,
good
are we gonna fact,
episode of
you gonna
Bob's
send us down the
Burgers.
fact
I
check
love it.
again.
That's a big toad.
yeah, well,
that's a very funny
in the
episode.
AC/DC argument, he electrocuted a large elephant in, I believe, New York or Chicago.
Hey, it was on Bob's Burgers. It's got to be right.
Uh-huh.
so the Alva name apparently does have
Uh-huh.
is a common Hispanic last name, but that's his middle name.
Yes.
But it is nothing I am seeing here says that
Now I'm going to have to go research again here.
Well, let's keep the episode going
Yes,
while these
keep
two
it
guys
going.
here, are suddenly
So-
off the grid. Martin,
Yes.
So apparently, the
Agent
story
would
comes
have
from
been-
somebody who said that they had a Thomas Edison as a student in his class in Mexico, but his name was Tomas Alva, not
yes.
Alva
Yes.
Thomas Alva Edison. So yes, not that there's anything wrong with being Mexican.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
but we
no,
want to
no.
get our facts correct. That's
Yes, we want to get our
Yes,
facts.
they
right.
make excellent tequila.
But I'm pretty sure that somebody would have noticed if he were truly Mexican.
Well, yeah, because there are many pictures of him,
Yes.
and there does not appear that.
It does not appear to be that. Anyways, that is an entirely another episode for us to do. Next Tupajube will be
Mythbusters.
Thomas Edison, Mexican
Or no,
or not,
that's right.
or Canadian. Those apparently are two choices. Anyways,
I don't think anybody would disagree with his postulation here that hard work is necessary
no.
to take care of opportunity.
well,
I mean, this is kind of a cut and dry.
The only thing I disagree with that on, does everybody have equal opportunity? And I would say the answer is no.
Oh,
No,
there's
they
no
don't.
question as to that.
well, philosophically, yes. In the abstract, I would say
Uh-huh.
that is true.
Yeah, I mean-
Practically speaking, no, for a lot of reasons. One, the time you live in, the place you live in,
Family you're born into.
the family you're born into, and the external factors that seek to constrain you. Now, and most importantly, your response to those other four things, I think are will
Which is
determine whether or not you have equal, because there is no such thing as equal opportunity, because we all bring different gifts to the table. We bring all different situations to the table.
Right.
Exactly.
that
Um,
number 5 might be the one that's most interesting to talk about because
Yes.
it's about the what do you carry with you? What were you birthed with? What gifts do you have? What in to use the word intestinal fortitude, just as,
would be
as
one
a
way to
way
put
of
it,
way
yes.
of putting it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that is not equally distributed. It is completely random.
And people confuse
that's the same source.
equality of opportunity
Keeps going.
with
There are a number of
equality of outcome.
Absolutely.
And equality of outcome, no, you can't have. Because there are many things that factor into the outcome,
Yes.
including are you willing to put on those Carhartt overalls
That's right. And do
and
the
get
work.
in the backhoe and do the work?
That is a
Yeah.
personality function. That also can be an intellect function and all sorts of other things that are internal to the person. In other words, it does require, and I hate to say this because it's a little subversive, but it is true. It does require a certain amount of talent in addition to opportunity.
Yep.
And some of that is attitudinal.
And talent is not equally spread out.
That is
As much
correct.
as we'd
There-
like to think it is, it's not. Because if it were, I'd be Clint Eastwood.
It knows no boundaries, and that's where you go down the rabbit holes
Right.
of racism and
Right.
things like that. You can have brilliance can occur at any point in time from any source. To say that it's all genetic or all environmental or even any of those things is kind of missing the point, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously I think you're right, Francis, because you agreed with me.
Yeah.
You know,
We try.
that response to all of these external factors is the one of the biggest components, if not the biggest. Obviously, certain factors may outweigh others. You know, who you know can outweigh a lot of it.
Well, because
yeah.
we are social creatures, that is a major component of
Yes.
all that.
I mean,
but
you
there
know,
are some people
Bill
that
Gates is a self-made billionaire with a trust fund.
Yes.
You know, he had a good leg up. Donald Trump had a trust fund to get started. He was not entirely self-made in that respect, even though it's like it likes to be painted that he was. He had, and of course Gates went to Harvard. Those open a lot of doors.
All
that
men
were-
are not created equal.
well,
They are.
All men are
They
not
should
created
be-
equal in
they sh-
ability, but
they
we are
should
all
be-
created equal in the eyes of God.
well,
Yes.
endowed by our Creator with certain
Certain
inalienable
inalienable
rights.
rights.
That's the equality
Yes.
piece of that.
If we can be equal before the law,
Yes.
That's it.
in our
Ultimately,
Exactly.
varying,
We should be viewed
talents.
as equals.
yes.
That's right.
But
Yeah,
are
in the
we?
law,
Well,
societally
No,
speaking.
no, we're not. We're not.
Well, it's when you talk about being equal,
I mean,
there's such a danger in that, especially today, because we don't talk about equality anymore. We talk about equity.
That's
Yes.
correct. It's become
Different
the
thing.
become the
And-
rage here in recent days.
And equity, I think, is a dangerous term. And I don't want to take us down a political rat hole
Yeah.
because that's not my point. But equity implies the same outcome.
Right.
And that's impossible unless it's imposed.
Yes.
Which
And
is a
when you start
dangerous
talking about
proposition.
imposing outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
you may start off with a noble ideal. And you may even start off with the ideal of redressing past wrongs. But it requires the power of the state, hail the empire,
Hail the
Yeah, the
empire.
empire. The
to
road,
enforce.
you're right,
And
'cause-
when you
yeah.
require the power
Mhm.
of the state to enforce it, you very quickly are going to go from equity to inequity because it's no longer.
You have to aggregate to the state
Mm-hmm.
ever more power
Yes.
to impose those outcomes.
Which is
Yes.
ultimately corrupting
And
Yes.
that
in
power,
all times.
and
Yes.
those outcomes are always apportioned to by whomever is in power,
Yes.
and so it is inherently unequal.
It's whimsical by
And
whatever
is it any
definition.
better
Yes.
to say
Mhm.
that we let it be a free for all? Maybe not, but it seems that history points out that yes, it is better. That more equality does come from a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It's proven throughout history that letting people be comes out better when you examine the totality of the circumstance. It just does. People with talent aren't selfish.
So you're suggesting that a
I don't know that that's true.
meritocracy is the only just system?
Yes.
Oh yes, I could have told you he would say that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well,
In addition, though, people who don't fear what the government will do are generous. But if you fear that the government will impose some definition of equity or equality, then you're selfish. You have to protect yourself. You just do. You have to protect what you have.
You know, oddly enough, that is a truism from both sides of that argument.
yes, it is, isn't it?
Because those who want the government to impose that equity will say the same thing, but they're pointing out that you're being selfish.
It's the Bella
by doing
Ox mix.
so.
I got to be
Yeah.
the unity.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, so which in many ways just points out the ultimate truth in that.
I mean, it's just
proposition.
it's important to remember that whatever the government gives away, it took from someone else
Yes.
Right, whether it was voluntary or not.
or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, because we all have to remember, just because the government takes from someone does not mean it's involuntary all the
No.
time. Because, granted, we are born into a system, so therefore we had no choice but to submit to the social contract that we are.
Right. And there are
Or at least
parts
adapt to it.
there are parts of the contract that are worthwhile. Do we need to defend this nation? Yes, we do. Are we willing to then surrender part of our treasure to accomplish that goal? Yes, we are, clearly.
Provide for the common defense. I mean, that's one of the.
Or the common good.
I mean,
Well.
as much as we would not like to do that, as much as we would like to see a world live in peace,
Mm-hmm.
that's not realistic.
Right, because not everybody else holds the same
Holds
ideals.
that same value.
Exactly.
But then you have to, what else is down that road of, again, whatever it gives away, it must take from others. And you
Well,
have
that's not entirely true. And I would say this: that is only true when we are talking about material goods and wealth.
right. You're absolutely right.
Talking about.
So when the government, because obviously the government, from all five of our perspectives, the primary function is to guarantee the legal framework and peace within which we all have to live our daily
Right.
lives.
The government exists to protect the individual liberties of the
Mhm.
citizenry.
In
Yes, but
theory.
it doesn't stop there. And I know this is a common discussion we'll have, because
You may get outvoted.
because you cannot have individual liberties without the individual responsibilities that go with
Oh,
it.
I agree. I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And far too often, that part gets left out.
Life's annoying backpack.
Responsibilities to who or what?
Well, it's not just
Mm-hmm.
yourself because no man is an island, right? So
Right.
we do not live in a vacuum. And the question is to what degree, not whether, we have responsibilities to one
Right.
another. Now, obviously, Francis and I are going to argue from a very particular religious background that is going to say, yes, we have a certain responsibility to our fellow man. And some people will take that farther than we would.
Sure.
And
But
some
can
people will
that
say,
people even
no, everybody's on their own.
Yeah, some people deny it to the extreme. Yeah.
Right.
But can that responsibility be fulfilled in a way? Again, this is an optimistic view of humanity. If we are free, we are generous. We will take care of others, if not forced to. If we fear the government taking from us, we protect what we have.
There's a
I
different.
think history
we-
I think history proves that wrong.
Well, and there's a
No,
difference
I think
between.
history proves it right, because in every
Hmm.
society where the government was powerful enough to take things away from people, people were selfish.
He's right in a rural setting, and you're right in a city setting.
There's some truth to that. That explains a lot of our polarization.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
when
And you've seen it from both sides.
Absolutely. That's you're
when
exactly
in-
right.
When in the setting of, again, we've discussed this, monarchical evolution of Europe.
Yeah, this Hobbesian view of
Right.
Leviathan.
When
yeah.
when the government was powerful enough to just take stuff, you had to protect yourself.
Yeah, you hoarded. Yeah,
You hoarded.
you lied.
Yeah.
You
See, I'm thinking back to before we had a well-established feudal system, for instance.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a great example of that. So, even think back to the Wild West when there's very little law. The law is, and maybe you can make the argument the law is part of that generosity because it seeks to guarantee the rules that we all live under. But when there is a certain amount of lawlessness, when there's an uncertainty to whether or not you can walk down the street without being gunned down,
Sure. Yeah.
whether or not you can walk down, whether or not there's a street for you even to walk down.
Okay.
I think people will tend to be more selfish because the danger that arises from others is very real.
Right.
So
right. But
when
that's,
you think,
that's
hold
a
on.
law and order thing.
Well, hold on. So when you think about what a post-apocalyptic world would look like,
Yeah.
very quickly, people like Cajun and Martin are going to rule things because they have all the guns.
Okay.
And that's why we have all the guns.
Well,
They're all
that-
being used.
but,
Yeah.
that kind of proves that.
And
This
after all-
proves your point, though.
Oh,
After all of this discussion, I
Oh
think-
no, that's when we pick and choose members to come within our society, and we arm them to help out
so
again,
from our generosity.
though, I think that disproves the point that he's making.
Of course, the prettier they are, the better off.
That is always
you are
true.
suggesting then that mankind is inherently predatory, left to its own devices.
Because we are fallen creatures.
That's,
Yes.
Good people band together to make sure good things happen or combat evil.
Yes, I agree with that.
and that's
When you were
what-
talking about the lawless, the old west there, that's why.
I mean, that's
But
why people
eventually
kind of
that was
yeah.
not sustainable. Eventually, law prevailed.
Well,
But
and
because the
otherwise we
people
would
brought
still
them
be
in.
a planet of 7 billion. Well, probably if it was still that lawless, it'd be a lot fewer than seven
Yeah.
billion. But we would be a planet of 7 billion warlords or potential warlords. But the point is, though, that we have banded together to try and temper that
Yeah.
that
predatory nature?
nature.
Yes.
And it is only because we have banded together through that imposition
Social contract.
of the social contract
Yeah.
that allows us to be
Right.
generous.
And
This is what Lincoln would call the better
we banded
angels of our
together
nature.
though before by choice. Now we're being banded together by politicians and government.
Well,
That's not necessarily a choice.
Well, that we did.
it was only a choice for the first group that made it. Everybody else had to live with it.
Well, and we
Exactly.
Unless you want to burn everything down and start it over.
Sometimes that may
that's
be
what
the
which
Yeah,
has
case.
that's
happened
the
many
Thing.
times in the history of the
What-
world.
What? Yes. What society or empire has survived
We were formed
permanently?
off of that idea.
But that's my point, though, is that though everybody lives under the contract they were born into.
Yes.
Yeah, a set of rules.
Almost nobody gets to define their own social contract,
But that's okay.
historically speaking.
Well,
If
over
the
time that
contract
can affect it.
respects the individual rights of each citizen, that's okay. Let me give you an academic example of what I'm talking about.
Preach it, brother.
So, in academic research, it's essentially established that in countries where there is a free press,
Mhm.
you don't really have famine. You can have shortages of food, but you don't have famine. So,
What's the correlation?
Yeah. I
So
was gonna
the-
say, is that
the-
a coincidence or?
no, it shows that a freedom, a government that respects the individual, doesn't let its people starve because that's a conscious decision of the people. But a government that gets so powerful that it can decide we don't want to let so and so starve actually ends up letting people starve because it crushes the voice of the citizen. It crushes the individual rights of the citizen.
By allowing no dissent, then there's no impetus or voice for them to do differently.
Right. There's
that what
no,
you're saying?
There's no reason for the government to do what's right.
The government has no fear of the people that it's supposed to serve.
Oh
Well,
well, yeah,
the
that's
kids
Alan
doing it
Moore
better
right
than
there.
I am.
Yeah.
So, see,
But
this is
it's-
where go ahead.
Well, I mean, the way I would look at that is if you want to go with that example, explain the homelessness and death, mass death in Seattle, Portland, L.A.,
San Fran.
downtown Louisville, San Francisco,
Yeah.
Chicago, New York.
It's a government abrogating its responsibilities to do something about those who are truly
In need?
have mental illness.
Oh.
For because homelessness is complex.
Yes, it is.
There's two pieces, two tracks. One is there's a push in society to get rid of long-term commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ken Kesey and Jack Nicholson, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That was
Mhm.
seen as repressive.
Mm-hmm.
But there are truly people who cannot manage their lives
Yeah.
because of their mental issues.
Mm.
On the surface, it may seem oppressive to put them all in one building and put someone like Nurse Ratched in charge of their care, but at least they're off the street. At least they're healthy. At least they're not menacing others.
So, that argument, though,
In theory.
philosophically, is antithetical to what you're saying.
Yeah.
To your preferred position, because the government is powerful enough to take away their freedoms.
Yes.
Now, I grant you, I'm not saying that we should allow people who have mental health issues
Right.
to run wild. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. But we need to
because
have
we need to be taking care of them, and we
Right.
don't do a better.
We need to have
do a
some
better job.
mechanism beyond here's 3 days worth of pills. See you later.
Right.
Mhm.
Or just here's your debit card, and the first of the month we don't see you down at the soup kitchen because you're busy spending your money somewhere
Right.
else.
Now, and there is
Yeah.
another track to homelessness. And that is a track that's deciding to abrogate their
Isolate?
responsibilities.
Yeah. That does not wish them.
That does not
Yeah.
want to put on the Carhartt overalls and do any work. A local TV station ran this on their website when they investigated
Mhm.
Louisville's homeless problem. They interviewed a guy who said, "Yeah, we could get housing. We don't want it.
Mhm.
We don't
Well,
want the responsibility
And that
of
speaks to
paying the bills." It's like, wait a minute, I got to pay my damn bills. He gets a pass. He gets to just
abrogate that.
he gets to
Exist?
crap on the expressway that I paid for with my tax dollars because he just doesn't want to.
It strikes at that
Well,
concept of
It's a very
freedom.
libertarian point of view, isn't it?
Well, we would expect that for Martin, but
No, to be able to crap on the expressway because he doesn't want to.
yeah, it goes back to that issue though of where's that freedom and where is, I mean, is freedom an absolute, which of course always leads to chaos. By the way,
Right. I mean, it's the inherent friction in a libertarian point of view. I mean, Robert's absolutely right to point that out. And it every, like the joke goes, two libertarians are in a room and they agree on two things: taxation is theft, and there's only one libertarian in the room.
Right.
And both of them ran for office under the party.
So, why does libertarian not buy Italian sports cars?
Why is that?
Because he hates fiat.
He's here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I think
That's a libertarian dad joke.
I think we've whipped.
Are we ready for number 4?
Well, we got to.
Well,
keep
yeah, I
moving.
mean, we need to.
We got 2 more to do. So
Yeah, and I don't want to have to be left with 2 minutes to do the wrap up. I will say though, one of the things that is the danger in when we talk about this stuff, and
Yes.
and I needle Martin about this relentlessly sometimes, and that is that there's no middle ground in your view of how, at least how you're presenting these.
yes,
It is either the government has no power or it has entirely all the power.
Supreme executive power.
That is the
Tension?
friction with the
Yeah.
tension
Yeah.
within a libertarian viewpoint, and that is why I don't always see myself as a libertarian. I see myself as someone who has a libertarian streak,
Right.
but that's all.
Right. No, because you have most definitely posited some very,
Shall we say Catholic?
oh well, yeah, definitely. But I was going
Yeah.
for a less of a more of a generic term. But yeah,
I mean, I see myself as more of a Reaganite.
oh, absolutely.
Who is not
Reagan
a-
would be Reagan without the name Reagan would be considered a raging liberal by today's Republican Party, and that's sad.
So I mean,
changed, yes.
he did not have a huge libertarian streak, but he did have a. There are certain things the government should do, and everything else it should butt out. And his idea of what the government should do is a consensus of the citizenry. If the citizenry has a consensus by majority that the government should do X, then okay, we need to do X. We need to do it well.
And can have an honest argument about what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But it can't just be a simple majority, though. I mean, because as we all know, democracy is two foxes and a rabbit voting on what's for lunch.
Yeah, the tyranny of the
right.
51%.
Within
a
the
republic
bounds,
is the rabbit having a gun.
yeah, within the bounds of the constitutional system, what the majority then, or what a consensus says the government should be doing, it should do.
Right. And, and you have certainly acknowledged this in the past, and that's why, and I definitely want to point that out. You do recognize the responsibility to one another because we are in a society, we are in a community, and the argument is about what that looks like, not whether or not we are.
Right. And part of this too is I'm just having so much fun having 2 more quasi-libertarians in the group. Whereas like, wow, me and Cajun are like brainwaves here, man.
All right. So let's move on because we have we can certainly go on. Martin,
Yeah,
what is your quote?
I'm not sure anymore. I'm going to change my mind.
Well, and you have the freedom to
I was
do
going to say,
that.
you were supposed
I've
to
got-
decide that while we were talking.
I know I'm sort of this whole I'm not the Lone Ranger anymore. I'm no longer a voice crying alone in the wilderness. So
How
no,
biblical.
I'm just teasing. I'm
If you're
just,
crying and alone in the wilderness, you ain't gonna eat because you done scared all the food away, silly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
again, Cage and I are going to go out right after this and buy more ammunition. I think, right? No.
Can never have enough.
Yes. Never have enough. I need 2 more mags. I don't have enough mags.
That's important too. because you
Yeah.
can't
You
be
don't
reloading
have
your
at
mag.
least 6. You should have 8 enough for any one weapon.
Right now I'm sitting on 13, and that just gives me the willies. So I need 2 more, so I can go to 15.
You need at least 50.
Well, I mean, then I might as well have belt fed.
That's a fair point.
Yes, but if I have 6 to 8 mags for each of my weapons, then I'm well past your 50.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So I'm just
strategic
focusing on one. So yeah. Okay. So the quote that I picked out in a serious vein is again about good government. I was inspired by our previous discussions. Well, what does good government actually look like?
Yeah, a constant theme we have here at Snakes and Otters.
So I went back to George Washington, and I don't think we've done this one. We must consult our means rather than our wishes.
No,
Interesting.
So-
That's a very libertarian idea.
Well, but it's
it's a common sense idea.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
is.
doubting it. I'm not
Yeah.
by any means.
yeah. I mean, to me that isn't really a conservative or anything idea. It's you can wish for a lot of things, but you got to pay for all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that is a conservative idea, though. Yeah,
Yes.
you don't. Thou shalt be no deficit spending and things like that.
Well,
But
but
what you're suggesting?
conservative in the sense that the classical conservative, because obviously
Yes.
the modern conservatives are just as willing, if not more so, than modern liberals.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's to
that
spend on-
that is a
yes.
long discussion right there.
you
You're
know, you
exactly
had,
right.
yeah, every both parties spend on what they want to spend on.
Yes, they only become
Whether-
deficit hawks when they don't control Congress.
Whether or not they have the means to do it's a whole nother story. Because politicians nowadays are just blowing smoke up everybody's ass, giving them everything that they could think of.
Which kind of
Quite true.
begs the point: is that essentially an infinite pot? When you speak about deficit spending, does it not seem you can spend what you want to? Does that not kind of go against
Well-
exactly the very quote you're saying here?
Well, yeah, because you're not going to cut yourself off if you're the one in power at the time.
That's right. You will find a way. Now, we've tried to balance the budget. We've given lip service to balancing the budget.
Well, it did happen in the late '90s. 4
Absolutely,
times.
absolutely. Clinton balanced the budget. I mean,
Yeah.
which
Well, he signed those.
that he
Yeah.
did.
He would never have done it without a Republican Congress.
I understand. There's a tension here, but there's some serious. For before that, it was like, well, we can never do this, and now all of a sudden it is, and then again, not so much.
And I'm fully cognizant that this kind of a statement is he's in a moment of his time.
Who was
Thank
the-
you.
He has
Right.
no idea about
Washington.
fiat
Washington.
money. He has no idea about
Well,
this massively interconnected international economy with dozens of sectors of manufacturing and information age, all of this.
Well, the perceived value of the American dollar. I mean, there was no such thing as an American dollar when he's talking about this.
Right. I mean,
Well-
you're talking about local banks issuing specie, and
But
everything
it's-
backed by hard money and
Gold at that time.
Gold.
Yeah.
but you see, I think at that time he's not just talking about the purse strings, because at that time there was no federal government.
Right.
There was no money to work with. It's not
Well,
just
there was still money.
well, yeah, but the
But,
means.
Gold has
Yeah,
always been.
but-
yeah. I
currency.
mean, you're
but
right.
There was no centralized government.
Yeah, I
per
mean,
se,
means
like that
goes beyond just the
level.
money. I think
Yes.
Imperator's correct here.
because
It's
you've got politicians now to just get the vote, promising things that are air. Take for example our local governor here, Bashir, in promising that he's going to decriminalize marijuana for medical use, and it's like, where the hell did that come from? He's got no power to do that.
Well, it's been a long standing argument here in this state. I remember going back into the 80s.
Gilbert.
Gilbert
Galbraith. That's right.
Gilbert Galbraith brought it up
Yeah.
years ago.
But- But you've got other ones too. You've got Biden, for example, promising to remove student debt, cancel it out. It gets blown down by the Supreme Court. What's he do the next day? I'm going to do it anyway. I'll figure out another way. We're going to
Well-
get you your debt.
To be fair, now his position has always been, I cannot unilaterally say nobody has any more debt.
Oh, well, that's true.
Right,
But
and-
he's willing to forgive so much of it.
Yeah.
Well, and to be
But,
honest,
again, it's degree, not kind.
executives have been doing that sort of stuff all over the
Exactly.
place. I mean, Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, for
did.
God's sakes. That is about as
I
anti-constitutional as you can get. So there's precedent for this sort of stuff. Now, granted, that was war. This is not. But where there's
Well, it
that
was under
tension.
COVID line, though. At the
COVID is
time.
a very good example about
Yeah.
that.
That was war. It was war on a pandemic.
That's correct, and consequently, the times justify the means.
But
Yeah.
do they?
Well, that's the argument.
Yeah.
Right. No,
And
but
that's what
the
we should- that's-
question.
Yeah.
So we need a good war to get rid of the debt.
There was that argument for a long, long time. There
But
was-
but
that's right.
no war has ever reduced debt.
No,
Oh, but it makes money.
But it does. Yes.
It does for the war production industries, absolutely. World War I is a great example of that stuff. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it was the first industrial war, and
World
mean-
War II.
well, that they had perfected it by that time.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of a different argument, though.
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the industrial,
Yeah, they brought the women into the labor force to pay them less to do
yeah,
it.
they brought in the industrial military complex in World War I was a huge, huge thing.
But ironically, we're spending more on the military-industrial complex now in peacetime than we did for World War I or World War II.
I know the world has changed.
Well, our weapons are far more complex
And very expensive.
and very expensive. I would like to examine this quote from a different angle because
Do it.
the
Go for it.
dollars are the obvious.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, could you repeat your quote just because I don't want to mangle it?
Yes. We must consult our means rather than our wishes.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
So when I think about Washington and how he would have thought of this, I don't think there's just a dollar component to this
No, there's not.
because the same is true for anything we wish to undertake as a personal venture.
Mhm.
It's not just do we have the money to be able to buy whatever we need to do this. It's do we have the ability within ourselves? Do we have the physical, the mental means to do the task that we have set before us?
Ooh.
And
The fortitude.
what do you want to call it?
Exactly, yeah.
Fortitude.
Fortitude is the word.
You want to
absolutely.
call it skill. You want to call it
Talent.
Talent. You want to call it mindset, attitude, whatever.
Will. I mean, to use Gordon
Um,
Liddy's word, that's sometimes that's
will.
what we're talking about here.
All of these are important, and the dollars are the dollars can be gotten, whether it be because you've raised them because you've saved the money, or because you're the government, you can print money or borrow money at will.
Borrow. Yeah.
Or steal.
Or with the government, printing and borrowing is pretty much the same thing because they print the money so that we can it can borrow it from itself, which is
Yes.
a asinine thing.
Let a
Not in
privateer go
Washington's
steal
time,
it.
though. I mean,
But not in Washington's
in
time.
Washington's time, that was one of Hamilton's strengths was this idea of we need to establish this nation's credit by borrowing and paying it back.
Right, the paying it back is the important
Right,
part,
right.
Key.
which we don't do anymore. We just borrow more to pay back.
Well, we've reached the
we've-
apex. We're kind of the apex predator in the financial world.
Well-
Government speaking.
Means also has a different definition at this time because it also includes your livestock, your horses,
Yes.
your wagons. It's like me being a farmer. I may not have a whole lot of money in the bank or on paper, but it's all sitting there on four wheels and equipment.
Right, you are asset rich, cash poor, kind
Right.
of thing. Yeah.
So I think it means
Right,
you have to take it far past money, both in your fortitude
Yeah, it's
and your available means to make it.
yeah,
or
it's
do things
irrespective
with.
of liquidity.
right.
Yeah, your
Means
40
of
acres
production, to use a Marxian phrase.
Yeah.
But
Or
but
means. Do we have the means to plant enough food to feed everybody in the colony for the next year and make
Right.
it through the winter?
right, do we have enough seed? Do we have enough whatever?
Right.
we have 40 acres
Have
of
we
bourbon
cleared
seeds.
enough land?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's so much more than money, and I think that's a common failing of modern society is we are so focused on the dollar side of things.
Well, we
Yeah.
look
Oh,
at
ever
it.
since I was a kid, people look at the farm out there and say, "Oh, they're rich."
Yeah.
No, we're not rich at all. There ain't a whole lot of money here. It's all you're looking.
It's
and
not
investing.
liquid. None
All
of it's liquid.
assets.
Right. If you can't, take a handful of dirt and go to the store to buy your groceries, it don't mean nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it don't taste good, too.
No.
They
no.
don't trade steak for corn, so
Well, you
It's a
kind of
long
do, but
process.
Yeah.
It's a long process. It's not direct.
yeah,
like
it's
you
not
said.
direct. Yeah,
You can't.
That's
you
a
can't
long
take
term vegetarian plan.
Yeah.
that's right. Yes.
And that's very much again that is when you take the context of Washington's time, that's
Mhm.
exactly right. It is this idea of yes, we could wish for a lot of things. Whatever the
Reality is
whatever
different.
yeah, the reality is different. Whatever the sense of what we'd like to do as a government. This quote, I don't know, I don't have a date, but I'm thinking this is probably a presidential quote.
I would think
This
so.
is probably a message to Congress, that kind of thing.
This could also have been a quote by him as general too.
Could
Yeah.
have
This could
been.
apply to
Yeah.
prosecuting the
It
war.
almost strikes me as, and I don't want to phrase it this way, but I can't really think a way around it. It's almost a dampening effect. It's like don't dream too big, and I
No,
don't like that aspect of
No,
this.
I think it's, think of a dream. That's great, but remember our structure here, this Republican structure that we put together,
There are limitations.
has limits, and sometimes those are money limits, and sometimes those are constitutional limits.
Well, I think it even goes beyond the Republican structure, small r, because it's an acknowledgement that our reach is greater than our grasp,
And that's okay.
and that is okay,
Yeah.
and that just because we can dream bigger than we can actually actualize is not a problem, but we have to recognize that
To-
because philosophically speaking, yes, absolutely, our dreams need to be bigger than our means
Sure.
Yeah.
because we are a small-minded people if all we dream of is what we can currently do. That's a sad people, in my opinion.
Well,
That
but
if your dreams are no bigger than your current grasp,
Well,
that
to
means there's
strive,
no
to seek, to
growth.
foul, to not to yield. That's Tennyson. That's what
well,
he's
to be
talking
fair
about.
though, Washington was a general, and when it comes to military leadership, you have to be a realist.
Yes.
Dreams create losses on the battlefield. Reality is just it. And if you don't have the army to do this or do that, you have to find a different way of doing it. You either have to alter your strategy or you have to aim lower.
And that's exactly what
Like,
Washington did.
yeah.
That's very insightful. I mean, he
Yeah.
employed
Well, yeah,
what was
that's very
called
much-
a Fabian strategy through
Exactly.
much of the war of
Mhm.
I can't lose this army. I can lose battles
Yes.
as long as I don't lose the army,
Mhm.
and I can wear the British down until such a point of
Yeah.
Ironically,
Then I-
Lee used the same strategy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's so insightful. That's so insightful. That's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's coming from a particular place that doesn't really promote the idea of the dream of the exploration of being better.
Well,
That's just outside the context here. That's not to say that he wouldn't necessarily think that way. Otherwise,
Mhm.
this quote is pretty
Right.
know what?
and- and
That's
again,
grounded.
that's because he's living at a time
Mhm.
when everybody, to use a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, everybody is living in the arena. There is no ability to sit back and observe and leech off of.
you starve if you observe.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's much
everybody's
more-
in the arena.
It's a much more
striving.
basic attempt. Yeah.
Yeah, and now, granted, you say, well, he was a slave owner. He was very much living off of other people.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, there's a lot of truth to that, but the man still went out and built great things. He built an army
He rode his
that
farm
defeated the greatest
every day.
nation on
Yeah.
earth.
I mean, he managed his farm after his presidency every day,
Right,
personally managed.
right, and he laid down the foundations and the traditions that all presidents up until the second Roosevelt honored until then, and he
Yeah.
did it because he was in the arena striving,
Mhm.
not sitting at home wishing things could be better. I think that's part of this too.
Right, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, it's a very particular moment in time.
Yes.
He's addressing things that Congress wants to do. Most likely, again, I don't have a date, but I'm just thinking this is probably part of his relationship with Congress and saying, "Hey, you guys can think of a lot of things, but good government, a government that can survive, has to consider its means always.
He's speaking from a position of frugality, mostly because that's what he's had to deal with. Scarcity. He does not have a philosophy of abundance. He has a philosophy of scarcity.
It's important to remember that many of the founders, part of their friction with Britain is the debts that they had incurred. They hated debt.
Yeah.
They hated debt. They
True.
were in debt to,
French and Indian War, in particular.
well, they were in debt personally to London merchants to a huge degree. And they felt like they didn't get a fair shake from their creditors and from these merchants. And that,
Yeah, a lot of the debt was imposed by the crown as well because
right, because they couldn't make things. They had to import. They were
well, not just that, but I
required
mean,
to import.
they were assigned a share of the English debt for war.
Yeah.
You know, we were here protecting you from the vile French.
Here's the bill.
Here's the bill.
Right. But it personally, a lot of these early landholders, Jefferson, Washington, and so on, they were personally in debt.
Right. Well, a lot of that
and-
debt would be assigned personally, not
Yeah.
just, oh, here, this amount needs to be paid by this colony.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
little was made here, they had to import it and
Yeah.
bring it over.
Mhm.
And for all of those things, they were in debt, and they couldn't pay those debts because of the economic restrictions the crown placed upon them for their trade.
Right.
They couldn't sell their tobacco
Just
at the
anywhere.
highest price.
Yeah.
They had to only sell it to Britain. They couldn't sell the timber to the highest bidder. They could only sell the timber to Britain.
Right.
And
All
that-
right. So I think we have
Yeah.
probably
Very much.
pummeled
Please-
that one.
Now
Please
it's your
go
turn.
ahead.
Yes.
Let's see what you can pull out of your ass.
No, it's time for bourbon break.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
right. We
We've
haven't.
been talking so long, I'm not sure I remember what I poured.
Well, if you can't remember, then maybe you should just pour a fourth one. That's,
Or maybe I should lay off.
or that. So I'll go first with the bourbon break. So I went back to a very old favorite. This is probably the second oldest bourbon for the group, 1792.
Yeah.
The small batch is
great year, yes.
the one that we are talking about here,
Mhm.
and this is one of those. The small batches tend to be very good bourbons, not always, but this one especially I've always liked. It's got a very nice sharpness in the mouth. Really explodes. What do we call it?
Bloom.
The Kentucky Kiss.
Yes,
Kentucky Kiss.
yes. That's how it makes you feel in the mouth.
Yes.
So when
And-
you do the Kentucky Chew, that's the kind of move.
I'm not saying a word.
And you probably shouldn't. This is a family show.
Yeah,
Most of
that's
the
what I'm
time.
not.
Most of the time. But it's got a nice, even though it's got a nice little bit of a burn with that in your mouth. It's very, it's not one of those things that hangs around and makes you want to have to go drink cold water or milk to get the fire out of your mouth or anything like that.
Like some
More smoky
girlfriends.
than sweet. Notice I ignore much of what the Imperator says.
Yes.
But you're used to that, right?
I'm married.
Exactly. So 1792 is an old favorite, highly recommended for anybody who wants to try out a new bourbon. But very good stuff.
Good stuff.
So Cajun,
I'm giving the bow and blade a try this time around, and it's a light bourbon. I mean, it's not heavy at all. Clean. There's some citrus working in there.
So it's
And
like
I'm not sure, maybe some molasses on the tail side of it. There's a sweetness there. I don't think it's maple.
interesting.
It is more of a summer bourbon.
Yeah, it's almost got
Interesting.
that springtime bouquet to it almost.
Now, Martin, you had that the first episode today, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you see similar hints of that?
I mean, I'll have to defer to Cajun's superior palate.
Well, I'm asking what your personal.
Now, did you get a
that-
sweetness off of that?
Yes,
like
I mean,
like a
of course.
maple or molasses or something along that line. Maybe a touch of honey somewhere. There's some kind of sweetness, but I don't think it's maple.
honey is probably a good description. I think
Oh,
honey works.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good stuff. Good
Always,
stuff.
yes. Blade and Bow is one. It's new for us. First
It
time we
is,
tried it was the
yes.
last time we were here, so that would have been what, April.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So
Good
that's new to the show. Francis, what are you drinking?
I'm stealing your devil's cut, sir. The
excellent.
last time we were together, that's what you had did, and I was reading the bottle here now. It's got it's a 90 proof, which is not excessively high, but they lay it out like this. They say we extract this dark and intense liquid from our charred barrel walls, blend it with extra aged bourbon, and they call it something. It's just amazing. It's dark.
The
And
sweat and oak is what they're doing after they've emptied the barrel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Extra aged in the heart of Kentucky on that. And it's
Yeah, and I
got,
wonder how much they actually get out of the barrels that's usable. Like how much of that bottle actually comes from what they
I'd
sweated
say a
out.
quarter or less.
Yeah, no
they
more.
call it dark and intense,
That's a good way to put
and
it.
it's not bad that way. But and of course, I'm drinking it with over ice. I'm not picking up dark and intense with this, but it's excellent. It really is, and maybe that's because maybe this is intended to be drank neat. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're basing this on.
I don't know. I mean, I've had it neat, and certainly right after I've poured it over ice. And I think you still get what you get with most bourbons is a
Yeah.
explosion of flavor.
That's
after.
right. It's they call it dark
Um,
and intense, but it's not outside the
Well, I
realms.
think dark and intense. Maybe they mean it is a bit heavier in the sense that when you drink it, you know you're drinking a bourbon with some bite.
But it's in no way comparable to that 120 proof Old Forester we had, the Prohibition style.
No, it's certainly it's a different kind of bite. I think
That's right. That's right.
Um,
I would agree.
Maybe it's because of what comes out of the charred oak. It's going to bring a little bit more of that harshness, that smoky flavor, than a normal bourbon would. Is what I would guess.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, sir.
So, Marty, what about you?
I poured some of the Russell's Reserve.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh,
Now, had you had that the last time we were?
I've actually had it many years ago. I love it.
Ah, okay.
But I'm not too. I'm not much of a. I don't have a big objection to the licorice tail end. That's
But it's definitely there, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, there is a strong flavor at the tail end. Again, then anise flavor. But I mean, not that I go out of my way for licorice candy or anything, but I don't mind it. But I love the mellowness. It's 10 years old.
Mhm.
It,
That's a long time to age bourbon.
and it
It
and
is, yeah.
For the
I mean, not
price
the
point-
longest, but
For the price point, it's excellent stuff.
yeah, that is I think that's something like between 40 and 50, give or take a little.
And it used to be less than that. I mean, you could get that for $35,
Oh, okay.
and it's
Well, even the basil has approached now almost $40.
yeah,
So
yeah.
inflation has hit bourbon hard.
I strongly considered picking up some Old Fitzgerald for us for the next time we're at Studio M.
Oh,
That's like $12 a bottle.
well,
Just to
that
see-
that Heaven Hill bottled and bomb that I've got in there.
yeah.
That's a very fine
It's,
bourbon.
if I
Yeah.
find bourbon, it's not expensive at all.
No,
Well,
But you're right. We've never done the lower price.
other than the Heaven Hill, yeah.
That's the only one. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Evan Williams at home. We've done, and Evan Williams at 15 to 18.
Solid.
Oh,
Personal
good
favorite,
stuff.
Cajun.
Evan Williams is one of the best buys for your money, especially the 1783 line.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's
It
called small batch
absolutely
now,
is.
but before they took the wording off, it said aged 10 years.
Yeah,
It was the only low price one you could buy for under $25 that was aged 10 years at the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did pick up a bottle of regular 86 proof Old Forester
Yes.
that hasn't been opened for next time. So we'll have a couple of inexpensive
Oh
ones
yeah,
to do next
absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
Good.
And
good.
I want to stress for people, hey, don't be afraid of inexpensive bourbons. There are some that are tremendously flavorful.
Very Old Barton is always very dependable.
Yes, a VOB I think is
it's
is
always
a fine
very
bourbon.
very good, and I don't think we featured it on the show. If I'm thinking,
No, we have talked about it several
many times, yeah, but it's a very
not actually tasted it.
That's all I
Urban
wanna-
pricing and popularity from the society out there go hand in hand.
Yes.
Some of the high stuff isn't even that good. Some of the cheapest stuff just hasn't been picked up and broadcast across the market to give it a red wax top and say, hey, it's great.
Right. I mean, makers they are the primo marketer.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, they do it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to grab a bottle of Blanton's. I do think it's worth what you pay. It's good stuff. But, for those out there in the audience, if you're not a bourbon fan, and
Why?
somebody tells you, oh, you got to go get this, or you got to go get that, no. Start with Evan Williams and work your way up.
What we may want to consider doing is, in memory of how when we all got together and what have you, we may want to consider doing a college drink night.
Oh.
Boone's Farm.
Oh wow,
Uh,
wow,
Mocha David 2020.
Mad Dog 2020.
Mad Dog
That's
2020.
right.
Well, but
Thunderbird.
the M and the D stand for Mogan David.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what's for.
Everybody called it Mad Dog.
Everybody
That's
called
right.
it Mad Dog in the day.
Yep.
Some jungle juice, perhaps.
Our
When was
good
the last
friend
time
in
you had high C?
our good friend in Michigan, he actually roomed with a guy whose preferred drink was Mad Dog.
Was Mad Dog?
Yeah.
Mad Dog.
There is a lot to be said for when we were struggling, impoverished young men,
I have
trying
not
desperately to get girls.
I think that
No,
was
you
in my
weren't
Jack
trying
Daniels
desperately.
days.
The rest of us were trying desperately. You weren't.
And Scotch.
You didn't
Well,
have
he
a-
was
was
never
trying.
really that desperate
I
because
was
he
no
never had to be.
desperate.
Never had to be.
Yeah, back in those days it was Scotch and Jack Daniels.
Well,
Me.
that or
Usher's
what
Green
was it?
Stripe.
Oh yes, Usher's Green Stripe.
Usher's
Boy, I
Green
had
Stripe Scotch.
forgotten about that one. Yeah, that's just that wasn't bad
martinis in the
stuff.
showers.
No, it's quite good for the price.
I actually
Martinis
came
in the
across a
showers.
bottle of Lagavulin
Ooh.
What?
Scotch. That's Ron Swanson's favorite Scotch.
Ah,
Lagavulin.
yes. Ron Swanson is one of my heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a
Speaking of-
libertarian hero.
Yes.
Speaking of heroes, though,
Meat eating.
Martin, you need to hammer this home.
I mean,
Yeah.
Robert.
Yes,
Right.
I'm sorry. That's what I said. No, I didn't.
No, it's not.
For you.
Zap him.
Yes. yes.
Arg.
All right.
Was it Pirate
So
Day?
I called him Martin.
yeah, he called me Martin.
No, he goes, oh, like he's a damn pirate.
Oh
today."
yes.
That's why not. you
All
know.
right. So as we know, so it's my job to tie all this crap together.
Good luck.
And of course, adding two loose cannons to the mix makes my job.
Well, that was rather polite of him, don't you say?
Well, we are a family show,
Not inaccurate, guys.
but not inaccurate. Yes,
I
it
am
does make
flattered.
my job.
I am flattered.
Yeah, well, it does make my job a little more difficult. But as I always like to do, I ask you guys to repeat your quotes so that we have them before I
Dig it up.
Goodness.
That way, it helps remind me of what you've said, and make sure I've made the right choice.
Well,
as
have
well as
mine-
to remind the.
Andy, do you want me to go?
Let's go around the original
All
order.
right.
if we can.
Original
pull it
order.
All right, why don't you go ahead because you have yours handy then, Martin.
All right. George Washington, we must consult our means rather than our wishes.
Okay.
All right. Mine, Thomas Edison. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Love it.
Cajun or Imperator?
There's no client as scary as an innocent man.
I think his may be the deepest of all the ones today so
Oh,
far.
I think so.
Yeah. The other two are pretty straightforward
Mine
so
was
far.
The people who cast the votes don't decide an election. The people who count the votes do. Joseph
Right.
Stalin.
Joseph Stalin, yes. Which led to a very interesting discussion of the political system in general. Which
Oh,
was,
yes.
quite nice. All right, so I've actually got three here that kind of all go together. And they're kind of if-then kind of comments. I'm going to use all three because I think they kind of help tie together everything we're talking about.
Oh,
We
look
have
at you
to-
breaking the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the nice thing about being the hammer. I can
You rebel.
I can be a rebel.
And
yes.
yeah,
I don't
So-
know. This might be a sign of defeat. You're not just using one to tie everything together. You're
Well,
using
there are
3.
4 of you, so I'm even more outnumbered than I was.
And 2 of us are me and the Emperor.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So these are all anonymous. I do not have who said them. Just they were. I don't even remember where I got these, but it's in my various lists of
kind of
quotes here.
proverbial wisdom.
Exactly. So knowledge is being aware of what you can do. Wisdom is knowing when not to do it.
okay.
Jurassic Park.
Uh,
Oh,
no,
very
would-
good.
would certainly-
Very good.
analysis.
Yes.
would certainly fit there. The next one, your problem isn't the problem. Your reaction is the problem.
Love that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let that
Yeah.
one.
And this final one, this very much ties into Martin's quote. You can do anything, but not everything.
Yes.
I do like that. Yeah.
That's
So-
very
All
much
these.
Washington's message.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the reason I like the 3 of these together is because they lay out, yes, a positive. You know that we all agree. You know that there is a premise that we all agree with that is a good thing, but then there's a cautionary tale. And I think that is very true. This idea of the cautionary tale that we've all talked about so far, whether it be Stalin's quote about what matters is who counts the votes. That in itself is a cautionary statement.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to have a moral system and a moral people to count the votes if it's going to be a just system.
Yes, a moral people.
Yes, our system is made for a moral people, very much so. And
I think that's at Washington as well.
no, I want to say that is an Adams. I
Probably.
could
yeah.
be wrong
Yeah,
about that, but I'm
yeah,
thinking
I-
Adams.
Douglas or Samuel?
The other Adams, John, the
Oh,
first
John.
John.
Okay.
The first
Douglas
John,
Adams.
yes.
That's humorous, sir.
Yes.
Make sure you have your towel.
Absolutely. Never go anywhere without a towel. And then, we talk about Cajun's quote about nothing so scary as having to defend an innocent man. An innocent man. That I think is very much this first quote about wisdom. I think being able to defend an innocent man, there's a moral responsibility that is far greater, because if you fail if the guy you know is guilty, well, he probably deserved to go to jail for something, as we talked about. But the wisdom is knowing, but as you pointed out, who among us is truly innocent? And I think wisdom is part of that, knowing when it is just to let the innocent man to go to jail, or the man who is at least innocent of what he's being charged with, or when it is just to defend the man you know is absolutely guilty of other things. I think there's a lot. I think wisdom comes into play a lot with that, as well as all of these other things about, whether it be who's going to count the votes, whether or not to know that the hard work is required to be able to have what is before us, whether it be people consider people who come into good things lucky, as we talked about in Imaginarium. Lucky writers spent years working hard to attain that luck.
Absolutely.
The old phrase,
Yeah.
overnight success. Yeah,
Right.
overnight for the last 25 years.
Success, yes.
Yeah, you still have to do the work. To go back to what Martin was saying, you still have to do that work in order for that luck to finally strike.
Right.
Because
And-
if you don't, then there's no such thing.
and a good deal of what both of you were talking about with the work being disguised, or opportunity being disguised as work, and working within your means, basically. I think a lot of all of this, if I had to pick one, I would probably pick your problem isn't the problem, your reaction is the problem, because how we respond to the various situations that we are presented with in life is far more important, quite often, than the actual problems we are faced with.
And fully within our control.
Yes, our reaction is almost fully. There are some reactions, that are animal instinct,
Visceral.
that are very visceral, that are very outside of our control, beyond the initial.
Those are short term, though.
Yes, they're very short term, or at least they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're almost.
Well, I suppose
often,
you're right. Some people can't ever get out of that.
Exactly.
They can't get out of
And
second
that's
gear.
why I say if I had to drill it down to just one, is your reaction is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you don't choose to react or you don't choose to respond. Generally the difference is between the react and the respond is the react is the autonomic response.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
The jumping when there's a loud noise. Say babies are only afraid of two things: loud noises and falling.
Mm-hmm.
And those are inbred into our DNA. You hear an animal growl in the dark. That's going to raise the hackles of just about anybody. But what do you do about that? Do you realize it's the tiny little chihuahua with the big voice that growls really big, or is it the lion? Which one it is? How you respond, how you perceive it, determines how you respond. Now, you may be responding to the wrong thing. You may think it's the chihuahua, but it's actually the lion. But at least you've made a choice. I may have been a stupid choice. I'll grant you that. That is often the case, that we make stupid choices. But how we respond to all these things, whether it be deciding what we can afford, or what we have the means to do, or whether or not we're willing to commit to the work, or whether or not we're willing to take the moral risk involved with defending the innocent man, the moral risk to ourselves, or whether or not we choose to object when the wrong people count the votes, or don't count the votes, as the case may be. All of that comes back to what we choose to do as individuals, right? What we choose to do as moral agents unto ourselves, because we are all moral agents. We all choose to act on our own morality.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And even not acting is a choice, because far too many wish to abrogate that responsibility, but they can't. That's one of the things that I was talking about, Martin. We were talking about how much of how to balance the rights and responsibility. Part of your responsibility is being a moral agent in the world, and moral agent almost entirely implies your interactions with other people.
Yes. Life's annoying backpack.
Yes, people are responsibility. Yes.
And inherent in the concept of responsibility is how you interact with others.
Yes.
I mean, if you're just by yourself, then it wouldn't matter. Your actions would only affect yourself. But your actions,
still does matter, but it
your
has greater
actions,
consequences.
yeah, your actions affect other people, and therefore, life's annoying backpack.
Yep, people are life's annoying. Yes, as
Responsibility.
the youngest Spawn discovered when he was at Governor Scholar these last 5 weeks. We talked to him that first night, and he was tired. He was exhausted, because for him, peopling is hard.
Yes. I sympathize.
Yeah, so he very much would understand the life's annoying backpack.
Classic introvert. Yes, that's right.
Yes, peopling is hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, after Mass, peopling is hard.
It is. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you are bushed, knocked out, ready to take a nap when you're finished.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and when you've preached for four
masses, that's right. Yeah.
4 masses, used to be 5 for me, and when you've preached all of those, and you've gone from the highs and lows back to back, from we're getting married next spring, to we just lost our baby, which just recently happened with a couple that we are close with. Well, not real close, but I mean, we know and
Well, Imaginarium for 3 days. That's a lot of peopling.
Well,
that's a lot of
Ups and
people.
downs.
It was. Yeah, it was. It
I'm
was
a
well.
pickling kind of person.
Well, some people are
You're
that way.
pickling what?
Yeah, you're an extrovert then.
Yeah, I mean that's
I'm very peopling.
the essential difference. The extrovert draws energy and inspiration from others, the introvert draws energy from
Not
inside, from self pursuits. Neither one is wrong. It's just
Right.
two different ways of drawing your energy and
people
what
drain
drains your
the introvert, they
Yes.
energize the extrovert.
Yes.
Yes, that's the best way to put it.
Well, I'm actually both, depending upon the influence at the time.
We are most
Yeah,
of us are
yeah.
functional in both areas.
Yes.
That's correct.
That's a very good
for
point.
instance,
Once you reach a certain level of maturity, I think.
For I would say definitely for the three of us, we tend to be the original Snakes and Otters. We tend to be more on the introverted
The
side.
introverted
Very much
side.
so, but we've learned
but
to
our-
function.
Yes, but we can function in large groups. But our preferred circle of influence is not large. You know, 90% of my circle of influence that I prefer is sitting in this room. You know,
I mean, yeah, I would be a shitty salesman.
right. I hate sales.
I
hate
can't.
sales.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just would lay out this intellectual why you should buy this.
Yeah. Or I'd say the price is this. You gonna buy it or not?
Yeah, and that doesn't work. I'm sophisticated in my understanding of myself to know that doesn't work.
Right.
To
Because even
really
introverts have to be sold, but introverts can't sell other introverts.
Yeah, you know you have to be able to emotionally connect to sell.
Yes.
Why this is hey, this a project or this product will change your life. I have a hard time convincing people of that.
Right.
It's like, no, it's really cool. It's got 180 horsepower and
That probably explains my success with dating.
I was almost going to go there, but I'm
Yes,
kind of
it
glad
is.
you ended
Go
up there.
sales.
Yes, it does.
It
So
is.
I got something
Ex-
to sell you.
Extroverts.
And I can prove it.
Oh Lord.
There's no doubt. The evidence is right here, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert, you've done a tremendous job of hammering all that together. I mean, you kind of slid into a three-part piece there, but your record is your batting average is undiminished.
Well, thank you, sir. I mean, I did focus in finally on the your reactions, your problems, and the problem.
You
your
know,
reactions.
we're doing
But-
this live.
All right.
We kind of work our way through things. That's the beauty.
But the other two support it.
Absolutely,
still.
that's the
It was
beauty
like
of
an
Snakes and
It
Otters.
was like an off-the-cuff homily.
Well, you know, honestly, I think some of my other than
Some
a
of the
couple,
best ones, yeah.
my best homilies were given at communion services as opposed to masses. Because at the communion services, almost everybody wings it. Even
Sure.
daily masses, most priests just wing it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to do a long 10 or 15-minute homily.
If you know your craft, it's not hard.
Right. If certainly for as long as we have been
Well, it
deacons,
takes a while to get there, yeah.
you know, if we couldn't stand up and even talk as much as 20 minutes on a particular topic cold,
Yeah.
then
Shame on us, yeah.
Shame on us. Now, whether or not we can make that interesting is another topic entirely.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
guard against rambling and incoherence, which
Yes.
we were usually pretty good at that.
And you know, or even the other thing is, you know, early preach when you preach, the early tendency is to throw in everything.
Yeah,
and-
you have to learn to pace yourself.
Yeah, you have to learn to patience. As Father Philip said to me, you know, you're going to be with these people for a really long time.
That's right.
You can parcel it out a little bit at a time. You don't have to hammer them with all of your wisdom all at once.
Amen.
So, Robert, before we conclude, and before we ask Francis what's next, I believe we missed something in Bourbon Break that you wanted to bring up.
Yes.
And Cajun kind of nibbled at the corner, but you guys got to participate in something really cool.
Yes, and you should have been there.
Yes. If you're not there next year, we will have to drag you there.
that is correct.
I'm not ready. I'm not far enough along.
Oh, that is the exact wrong attitude. You're
That's an
absolutely
excuse, not a fact.
No. This is exactly this is the milk of that you need
to be imbibing.
to be imbibing. That's correct.
There were several sessions at Imaginarium that would have
That
been
are-
perfect.
that would have rocked your world, and all of a
Yes.
sudden,
So tell us what Imaginarium is, Cajun. Or
So, well, I'll do it because
Robert
I've
or-
been to two now.
yeah, that's right.
Although Cajun's been to several other conferences, so he's
20
no
bucks,
stranger to them.
$50K out in Vegas
Yeah.
3-4 times now.
But Imaginarium is 10 years old now, and it is a locally grown thing here in Louisville that is a convention of writers and
Film.
publishers,
Creatives.
creatives in
Creatives
general.
is the word they use.
There's cosplayers, there's artists, there's just an incredible large number of people.
and
that,
you guys focused on actual writers, basically.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
the bulk.
It is
Yeah.
the bulk.
Fiction writers.
Yeah, there's a
There's
good
also
number of people
nonfiction,
who
too.
do nonfiction.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, one of the nonfiction people there, Tanita Johnson, she's just a gem.
Yeah, she was the keynote speaker.
she's
Yeah,
the
I had
keynote
not met her
speaker.
before, but she just knows her business.
Yeah.
So many of them. Just
They all do. Terry Brooks was there this year.
Oh yeah, the amazing Terry Brooks, who has been publishing fantasy books since what, the 70s.
Yeah, since the '70s. As somebody asked, at a panel, he
Oh
was
yeah, I
on,
love this.
what's your best advice for becoming successful? And the other people are doing, talking about, well, you got to work hard, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. And we got to Terry Brooks. He said, well, I don't know, because my first book I sold 1 million copies. So my advice is, sell 1 million copies of your first book, and you'll be successful.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, it's hard to argue with that.
he was a gem to be there. I was in at least two panels with that he was in. Yeah.
I actually got a couple books signed by him.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew he was doing a
Back
signing.
copies.
Yeah.
And he told me one of them very rare at this point. It was the first printing copy of Elfstones.
Oh really?
Oh, yes. I remember you telling us about that.
And he was looking at it. He even went back, checking the date and everything to make sure. And he said it was very rare. Because they had them sign them right across the cover, near
Yes.
the bottom.
There you go.
Yeah.
They stand out.
But the best part of Imaginarium, besides, the panels are great.
Yeah.
because
You learn a lot.
You do learn a lot.
Some more than others.
Yes, some more than others. Some are, well, that was interesting, but it doesn't apply to me. But they also have like 3 or 4 going on at least, if not a half dozen at any given time.
That's right. You have to pick and choose, so you can't do everything.
But there's enough for everybody.
That's
And
right.
not just panels, workshops, too.
Workshops,
Some
yes.
just straight
That's right. I'm
talks
glad you
on a
mentioned that too,
subject.
because it's not just that. It's where you're actually hands-on with experts, shall we
Yes.
say? Yeah,
Well, yes. I mean, anybody who presents is almost definitely going to be either a publisher or somebody who's been published.
Right. Yes.
So there, and if you've been published, then that makes you, now maybe you're still not that great, but you're still an expert because you've
Yeah,
gone through all of the
you've reached a
pieces.
certain level of expertise and time spent and effort
Yes.
put forth. So it's amazing, the craft. We've talked about the craft all the time. That's why I cannot tell you how many times I said either to these two or in my mind, God damn it, Martin should be here.
Especially the last panel we was at that
Oh,
we
yeah.
closed it out with.
That's
The
absolutely
law panel.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, my God,
A
I
lot
was
of
just
law
thinking,
dogs sitting on there.
yeah, absolutely, that which was fantastic. I'm thinking you truly, we should have kicked you in the head, dragged your stubborn Scotsman ass there, and made you sit through it because it would open up entire new
You
worlds.
should have just come out for Sunday, if nothing else.
Yeah, because you could have gotten just certain days. We all paid for the whole weekend. I had events I had to do, so I
Came
didn't.
up last minute, but
It did, and it was something I couldn't get out of. But I did make the things happen that I wanted to, and some of these were so invaluable. One of which, and I think I've told you, you guys were not at it, was called the Slush Fest.
yes,
Right before I left, and of course I have a work in progress that's done, 2 of them, and I was able to take the first page. I could have taken both with me. I know, but that's okay. I did.
but you know what?
I
Taking
was.
one lets other people get their stuff.
That's right, because they didn't finish. There were several folks that, and I was the second to last one they did. They take your first page, and one of the panelists reads it aloud to everybody. And when you reach a certain point, that where a person on the panel says, "I would have put the book down" or had a question or issue, they raise their hand. And if all the panel members raise their hands, then you stop reading. And at the end, they go over everything like that. There's only one that got no hands. That wasn't mine. I got 2. But the points that they
How
raised,
many were on the panel?
6.
Okay, that's cool.
Good.
It's not bad.
Good.
That's right. I think it was 6, and one of them was a reader though. She was doing the reading, so you actually had 5 others. And I mean, it was, and every one of them, which one of the publishers there, from the guy from Jumpmaster Press, Kyle, fantastic guy.
Yes.
Yeah, he was sitting.
Yes, I made sure that he talked to Kyle.
Right, very much so. And he's a professional editor. He's written 14 books, but he's like the hammer of the editors. And he's saying every one of us that got read, nothing was unfixable. In fact, it was easily fixable.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, Martin, you should have been here. Because
Well-
even if you didn't submit, just sitting through that and listening the way, because it was a very diverse type of fiction. It's all fiction, but it's a very different way of looking at it. And because you don't know the genres. And it's
Right, because first pages you can't always tell what the genre.
not
is.
at all. And we don't disclose that because it's nobody knows who these people are. You just drop them on.
And I know this sends shivers to the three of y'all, but now they are even mixing 2 and 3 genres in one novel, and
Yes.
they're selling
Yes.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
can be done.
Yes, cross genre.
cross genres.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you do
There,
it
there
well.
were even, I think, there were at least 2, if not 3 panels.
And the guy. And
yes.
cross
I was
genres.
at one of them. Yes.
Yeah, and there was some of those, mixing horror and romance. I went to that one. You guys weren't at that one.
Oh yeah, well, horror and romance is
It's
it's been a thing for a
It
really
has been a
long
thing
time.
like that, and but it was one of those things that we all got to pick it. We went to several together.
Yes, but we often were
Often
by
we're on
ourselves,
ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. They had so many selections out there, and just being able to kind of immerse yourself in this world. Holy hound dogs!
Wow.
Crime fiction is one of the last ones I
Yeah.
went to, and I'm thinking,
Last year they had even more crime oriented guys that were presenting.
and
than
they got
this
some
year.
high level experts on this
But,
stuff here. I'm
yeah, I
thinking,
mean-
Martin, I want to smack the snot out of you for not being here.
Well,
Next year you have
You
to.
have
go.
to.
And then my lady came up and spent the weekend too with me, and we did the banquet and so forth,
Yeah,
and
which
the
we
Roaring
didn't do
20s
that.
ball afterwards, and it was a damn good
Yeah,
time.
Just
you can-
talking with people,
yeah, just-
other people that are on the same journey as you, besides us, is a big deal.
You learn
It
so
really
much. You
is.
really do learn so much, and it's
Well-
And there's a lot of bourbon drinking, so
That's right. And I wasn't able to stay for a lot of that. Normally I would have,
yeah.
but it was fantastic,
Well,
and we're blessed to have it here local.
Yeah, let me just say, I'm so grateful that you thought of me. That it's incredible that
It was
you-
actually a very annoying thing because
No,
all
no,
I could
no.
think of is, dang it,
no,
he should
it's-
be here. That's right, we all did.
To be involved in what you were involved in. You got 2 things complete,
Mhm.
Yeah,
ready to go.
right.
You have something you need to do for yourself. Search out
Oh, I
a
did.
publisher, which
did.
you did.
well,
I-
and
you
I
know.
talked to the guy that is probably going to publish his book.
That's right.
I
He,
love
yeah,
it.
he-
I love
I
it.
laid the groundwork
because
for
I
him.
couldn't be there. He pitched my book to the guy.
I mean,
I came back the
you're-
next day.
you're-
Goes, oh yeah, you're the guy. Okay, send me this, which I have done.
Yeah, I had the groundwork laid for him. It was,
Yeah,
I mean,
he said- yeah.
not that he wouldn't have done it anyways.
Oh, I know. I mean,
But, I mean-
it's that generosity to you've almost got he's
The brotherhood
almost
of
to his
Snakes and
dream.
Otters is a
He's
very real
almost to
thing.
his dream, and when he needed a helping hand,
Well,
you were there.
I mean, I know Imperator has not read any of the stuff that.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
you need to send it to
I
him.
will
so
do
he can
that.
read
I
it.
will do
I-
that. Yeah.
I love
But
Francine.
Cajun and I have read it
Oh, yeah.
multiple times, and
I love it.
had input, and so has Martin.
Yeah.
Martin has not read the second book.
But he's
I've
not read the second
I've
book
read the
yet.
second,
I mean,
but
I've had a
um,
lot of stuff over the years published, and so has Victoria. So
yeah.
I mean, I
So-
used to write all the time.
Yeah, it
haven't
is
done
a
a
it is a
lot
it
in
is a big
years.
deal. It really is. It's
So I love that you guys were able to get within reach of your dreams while still thinking of me. That means a lot to me.
all of us we all want to be up on
And-
that published
and
shelf
I just,
one day.
yeah, I mean, I just want to say,
Well, don't forget, we still have the Snakes and Otters books to get going.
Well, that's a true writer is.
Yeah.
always
Well, there's 2 more seminars and conferences coming up that I'd recommend anybody that ever gets a chance. 20 books, 50K coming up in November.
which you're going
Out in
to
Vegas,
this
which I
year.
will be going to. I'll be spending about 10 days out there. 5 of it's purely the conference, and the other half is networking and stuff, and enjoying some time. My lady's going to come out with me the first 3 days, and I'm sending her butt home on Sunday before the conference actually starts. And,
Well, yeah, you don't want to be distracted.
no. And then the next one I would recommend will be in February, which by a name I'm sure y'all all recognize, Kevin J. Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
His All Stars Conference, which will be in Colorado,
Oh,
outside of Denver.
What's the one that's in Nashville? There's a big one that's in Nashville, and I cannot remember the name of it.
honestly,
Now,
I don't-
LibertyCon just happened
That's
over
the
in
one.
Chattanooga or
That's the big
somewhere. It's
one.
not
Maybe it's
quite
that one.
Nashville.
LibertyCon is a big one because
LibertyCon tickets went on sale last week and was sold out within 24 hours. You got to get on a wait list.
Wow.
I missed the tickets this
I
time
remember
around.
because the guys from Jumpmaster I was talking to,
And
and that was
yeah,
Yes.
it came
was
from
one
there.
of the big ones
They
they
came
go
from
to.
there.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
And I put my name on the wait list.
it's in the southeast part of the country. It's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And Jumpmaster, by the way, that's one. Hydra Publications
Hydra.
is the one
Hydra's
that
the other one. That's
he is,
who
they're here locally, and they're the one that
I've submitted to already.
That
and he's kind of the sponsor of Imaginarium, right? Or kind of
he's one of the guys
the
that
one that runs it to Tony.
I don't
Acri.
think he runs it, but
Certainly a vendor there.
He's certainly one of the bigger names there.
And I'll give a shout out to Three Ravens. They was
Three
over
Ravens
back,
are good, yes.
corner
They don't
there.
publish my genre, but,
no, but
but
they're semi-local. I mean, they're not right here in the Louisville area,
He's from
but they're
West-
in the south.
he's from West Virginia because he was on the
yeah.
the guy from Tree Ravens, Hillbilly.
Hillbilly, yes.
was on my
Excellent
some
guy.
of my panels.
Excellent guy. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
those are
he's
three
a
local
southern
pub-
area boy here.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Also want to give a shout out to Greg.
the Bourbon Lover, which we've talked
Yes.
about. Yes.
His wife's name is Hallie. What's the last name?
Oh, you would ask me that. I walked into the
I'm bad with
conversation
names.
late, so I don't know.
Something Bridge. Bridgman.
Mm.
I think it might be Bridgman. I think it's Greg and Hallie Bridgman.
Yeah, but a huge shout out to
but
all,
huge shout out to them.
all
They are
the-
bourbon ambassadors.
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
which was really cool.
And
Which was
They
and-
live in E Town.
it was an unexpected conversation, and that's kind of what was so great about this.
Yes.
That's why you should have been there.
yeah.
Yes, and there are several people that I've talked to both years that I've been. Lynn Tincher, I used to work with her. She's a local author that's published through Hydra.
It's pretty incredible that it's local.
Yeah.
I mean, these are mostly
And I ran
local
into a few people that I see out at 20 Books 50K every fall when I go. Even Nicole Plummer was on one of the panels about relationships and so forth. And
Yes.
writing
It
with
was
your
just-
publisher,
it
with
was
your
truly
significant
a
other. I mean,
professionally executed event, and that's
Yes.
what was really cool about it.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
So, one last thing, because that Imaginarium, we could go on and on.
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Third Spawn. I told him that one of these days I'd like to have him on the show, so he needed to select a nom du pod,
Yeah.
and he said, "So is St. Thomas Becket too on the nose?"
No,
we could do that.
we could work with that. We would work-
So St. Thomas at one point will probably be on the show to talk about his experiences. But he just got back from Governor's Scholar, and that's a big deal.
yeah, here in Kentucky,
Here in
it's,
Kentucky,
it's,
that is a big deal.
it's an intention to keep the brain power here,
It is,
and to
pretty much he's got a free ride to any Kentucky.
excellent program. I had a stepson who went through Governor Scholar.
Excellent.
Had free ride up at UK.
Yeah, and almost anywhere he wants to go in state
state,
is
yeah.
a free ride. And now he also is among truly the elite. Just a little over 1% of all ACT test takers get a perfect score. He is in that elite 1%.
congratulations, here.
So between that
Congratulations.
and the Governor's Scholar, Third Spawn, St. Thomas has truly set himself up for future success.
The
Quite
world
proud
is
of the
his
boy.
oyster.
It is. He's quite smart. And I tell you what, he's a changed man coming back from Governor's Scholar.
Oh, all of this in one day, right?
Well, he put on
Well,
the
it's 5
overalls.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you've just seen him for one day.
Oh,
and
yes.
noticed
Yes,
that.
he
Yeah.
just came back yesterday. Yes, he put on the overalls and he did the work. He's always done the work, which is one of the impressive things.
Good for
Amazing.
him.
But yeah, I mean, just his personal skills. I said peopling is hard, but he excelled at peopling. We went out to the funeral last night,
Yes.
and then to dinner afterwards, and what have you. We just Trace and I were both struck with the changes in him.
Isn't that something?
He also dropped about 10 pounds. He said,
Good for
when he
him.
was there. Looks really good.
Well, he walked a class uphill both ways, right?
Actually, it's fairly flat there at Morehead State.
Yeah. It's not like
The-
WKU.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not
The
like being a
Hilltoppers,
Hilltopper,
yes.
but or being at Bellarmine, where
Oh, yeah.
where he's definitely going to be able to say that. But and no snow. But yes, it was
well,
some walking though.
I mean, Bjorn used to say when he had to walk campus, I've never had stronger calves.
Yes, that is very true. All right, so Francis, we need to wrap this up because we just hit 2 hours. So.
Wow. Well. Time well spent, guys.
One thing to take into consideration, we here at Snakes and Otters have expanded drastically. It's not just that we've expanded to 5 gentlemen here. It's the equipment.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
we
We talked
had-
about that. Yes.
We have expanded to a Tascam,
Yes.
Mixcast 4,
Mhm.
and we have taken it beyond some of its limitations.
That's true. We have added. You brought an extra piece of equipment
We
this
have
year. this
added
time.
extra equipment so that
Yeah.
we
That
can
was the
handle-
Imperator's genius.
Territory.
Yeah, so we have the capability to have 6 people on site
Yes.
plus
Excellent.
remote guests now.
Yes.
Either
So
via-
we are really set up for
either via
taking over the
phone
world.
That's right.
or,
Guest speakers. Yeah.
or
Bring it
Zoom
on.
or what have
Yes, we did mention to Greg at Imaginarium we wanted to have him on the show, being a bourbon ambassador. Next bourbon show.
Yeah, next bourbon show we should give him a call because he will take us to new universes that we don't. We'll all feel ignorant by the time we're finished. And that was after 5 minutes conversation with him. I realized this guy knows his stuff. We can only aspire to be that good.
Yeah. And for those of you in our audience currently that may want to consider, spreading your knowledge via Snakes and Otters, contact us, please.
Or just being contrary and wanting to argue some.
Well,
that's true. One of these days we will have to open up the show to callers.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely, because Snakes and Otters at gmail.com. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Snakes and Otters podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Almost missed
Or Robert at snakesandotters.com, Martin at snakesandotters.com, Francis Cajun, and Marcus. Do we do Marcus or Marcus Aurelius?
I think we just did
Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius is in the mouth.
Yeah, it was a bit much, yes.
It was, we've got, this little get-together is expanding by leaps and bounds technologically.
It is.
And it's wonderful to see.
And intellectually, too, since we joined.
Exactly.
Amen to that. Most days.
Oh, that was that eagle coming out we were talking about.
Hail the Empire.
Hail to the Empire.
Out of the Empire.
All right, so Francis, buddy, what's next?
We're going to go, and this is a Martinism here. We're finally going to do the Helter Skelter. Helter Skelter. We're going to talk about the Manson murders back in the 70s.
Yeah, we've danced around that quite a bit.
We've mentioned it very often, and we've never done a deep dive. So we're going to do that next time in here to really, it's very topical these days because Manson himself has passed away, and there's other issues in current times. It's foundational for us as Generation X, and for the world itself. So be here next time. You're going to love it.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajoob episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time. Same snake time, same otter channel.